I'm Luke Story. For the past 22 years, I've been relentlessly committed to my deepest passion, designing the ultimate lifestyle based on the most powerful principles of spirituality, health, psychology, and personal development. The Lifestylist Podcast is a show dedicated to sharing my discoveries and the experts behind them with you. Ian Clark, welcome to the Lifestylist Podcast.
Hey, Luke, my pleasure to be here. It's exciting times.
Oh, man. Great to see you, dude. You know, last time we ran into each other, I think it was at the Bulletproof Conference at the last one they did in Pasadena. And I remember running into you at a few of those, maybe even the Longevity Now conference and just some of those health expos over the years. And you're the guy that always has these really rarefied, unique products in your little shaman bag walking around. I'm like, I'll see you kind of like dosing people. And I always wonder, what's he got in there? And every time I've seen you run into you, you've had some new discovery and you're just a real pioneer in this field. And I think one thing that's always interested me about you is your ability to find very niche health products that are unique. You know, there's a million companies out there that have a B vitamin. They're probably half of them are great, half of them not so much, but you find really weird stuff. And so I'm looking forward to getting down with that. Before we do though, just to give people some context, and I know you've told your story on a million podcasts, so I don't, you know, they can go hear the long version of it, but I do find it pretty impactful that at 46 years old, the doctors told you had about 1,000 days to live. And you're kind of knocking on death's door with lifestyle dis-ease, and you've managed to pull yourself out of it. Now you're in your 60s, looking super young and super healthy. So what was the crux of that like final health crisis that set you on this path?
Well, it was, a huge wake-up call. When you have a whole lot of things blowing up in your body, and doctors are telling you that based on medical diagnosis, you've got life-threatening whatever. It could be cancer or heart disease. In my case, it was like a colon cancer thing, and then a potential liver cancer, which they very much strongly believed it was, but it would not allow any biopsies, and then a heart disease. So those are the three things, like what could happen, was happening. But what I found out is all of the information I was being given at the time was based on, it felt like they were guessing. And most of the time, doctors are trying not to guess. They're trying to really drill down. But when I was asking what was the root cause of my problem, and I don't think I used the term root cause at the time, but hey, how come I have this is what I was asking. And none of them could ever give me a definitive answer. They would say things like, well, guys, in this age group, it's not uncommon. And, guys die of heart attacks in their 40s. They get cancer in their 40s. And you have some, things going on. They didn't ask me anything about my past or what I'd been through. And my confidence level in them started to drop because I come from a family of allopathic people. My brother was a medical doctor for 30 years. My oldest sister is married to a heart surgeon. He doesn't do that anymore. He's too old. But at the time, it's like, you go to the doctor, dude, and you do what you're told. You don't know what you're doing with your health. These people are officially trained at university level, and they can take care of you. And I kept referring to the fact, and especially with my brother. My brother was never my doctor, of course, but I would phone him and reflect on the things I was being told. And he would just say, you are clueless. He said, I have thousands of people in my lifetime who have come through our clinic, because he had 11 doctors working for him. And he said, all walks of life. Doesn't matter what they do. Yet they have a genetic predisposition to have X, Y, or Z happen to them. And it's just sort of this crapshoot. It's whatever genetics you're dealt. And he also reminded me of my two uncles, which I would never forget, who passed away, unfortunately, when I was 20. And they were 51 and 54 years old. They both had passed through cancer. And they both did exactly what the doctors told them. They were right on time in the casket, almost like directly on time. And that I looked like one of them. And so I was genetically predisposed to these things. I was just like, and I'm going, genetic predisposition. So it sounds like a statistic. And it sounds like I can't do anything about it. And he goes, you're exactly right. I said, so it's not my responsibility at all. No, not at all. He says, I've seen people live to their 90s, eat out of the dumpster and party their face off. I've seen people eat organic and juice and die in their 30s. So it doesn't seem to matter. And I said, well, I really think there's something up with me that is a problem. And I'm suspecting it. I don't know exactly what I've done or what I'm doing that is messed up, but I really think that I want to take responsibility for this and find out if it's something I'm doing. He goes, no, absolutely not. That you do that kind of thing, it's going to exacerbate the problem. You're going to make it worse because you're going to start blaming yourself and feeling guilty and being afraid and all that crap. So anyway, I didn't buy into any of that. It just sort of went through these systems and going to specialists and having a specialist completely miss the point, not even listen to a word I was saying when I was telling them. They were telling me what I was. So that was this cool situation where I got set free from the doctors. I wasn't angry at them. I was thankful because then I realized, wow, I actually can take responsibility. Let's see what happens. If I'm going to die, I'll die at my own hands, not theirs. And I didn't think I was going to die. I knew that if I didn't take very strong measures quickly, that I would only be here for a little while longer. So I was 46 at the time. I would be gone based on the trajectory at that point by 49. And so I knew that if I had 1,000 days left to live, that meant that I had 1,000 days of bandwidth. What do I do with that 1,000 days? Could I use that to get 5,000? Because that would give me more time. And that was my goal. I thought, I just want to find out how to extend that time out. So fortunately, during the first 5 years of that, right, the first 60 months, I was able to extend. I realized, wow, I think I made it up to like 10,000 days because so many things got corrected and I was able to meet the right people at the right time. But the thing that initiated it is I woke up one morning and realized, when you're waking up and you kind of get these thoughts that come into your mind. And it was that morning that it was an obvious thing, simple. There are people on the earth who have the top level of understanding about naturally caring for the body, whether it's brain health or respiratory, circulatory, digestive, et cetera. There's like 15 different or 12 different human operating systems. And I knew that there would be people out there in the world who had the top level of understanding of exactly the things that I needed to do, but I had no clue who they were, where they were, or how to find them. But I did know that if I ran into them or if I was led to them, that I would do what I was told and I would do whatever it takes. I would suffer if required. I would have fun. I would spend money. I would spend time. I would travel or whatever it took to be able to get through this. And if I did, if I could get into a healthy realm, how far could we take it? And so it was kind of an intimidating thing. And there were really nasty things happening in my body. I had this like a cyst that turned into a tumor that grew into a third testicle. Too much graphic information, and into the rectal area. But it throbbed in my body and as a tumor for about 3 years. And just through cleaning up my diet, like stopping everything, doing heavy metal detoxes. So to cut to the quick on what the real problems were, I'd worked in the oil field for 17 years. I was full of lead from the lead pipe dope, solvents, chemicals. I had mercury fillings in and out of my mouth. I don't know, too many times to count. So I had like mercury, cadmium, lead. I was super mold infected. I had like this fungus inside my system and also other infections, just weird stuff. And so all of that was causing all of these super symptoms that all of them, I got shown, and I did get to meet all these amazing people, by the way. It was just a gentle bumping down the road, meeting this person. They introduced me to that. Coming to that place where I was able to do the things required to get the garbage out of my system and even all infections. It was, I said I was willing to suffer as much. I suffered like crazy levels because I really didn't know what I was doing as far as watching over Herxheimer and doing things too quickly. So I would get these healing crises going on and people would say, well, did you lose weight? I go, yeah, I lost 90 pounds in the scale, but I think I lost around 2,400 pounds. And they're like, comprehend? And I said, well, all I know is I would have these things that would happen when I would be doing a cleanse, like with 16 ounces of wheatgrass juice or something like that. And then I would be down for like 2 or 3 days straight. and not having any food, but my bowels would be filling up with black garbage. It stunk so bad, I don't even know where it came from. And it kept filling up. And all I was doing was drinking more water because I was so sick and having a fever. And then, again, too much information, but unloading this massive amount. So what I realized is that all of the things I had done in my life, I had eaten, I had breathed, I had consumed, I had absorbed, were rehydrating themselves as they were cleansing and filling up my body, and out it went. So it was like, wow, I really had packed it in there. And I wasn't into drugs or drinking or anything. Like, I quit smoking cigarettes when I was 21. So it's not like I was a health guy, but I wasn't doing really bad things, but I was eating out a lot, and I was eating a lot of fast food, and I was not caring for my stress levels. I didn't care about sleep. I thought I was invincible. You can just, I don't know what the problem was. I was very arrogant about certain things and quite a know-it-all, which was killing me. So it was this huge breakdown. It's like shattering a crystal glass.
Yeah.
It's got to go completely. I mean, even if I had thought certain things that were correct, they were so contaminated with incorrect information. I just felt it all had to go. Just a total purge, like a spiritual, mental, emotional, physical purge. And the purges were wild. But then I got through that. At 5 years in, I was in a healthy medical range, which is boring. And then I just thought, wow, I feel really good. How much better can I feel? How much healthier can I get? And then I realized that the older you get, the smarter, the wiser, the better, the stronger, the faster you should become, not the opposite. And it's not how old you are, it's how long you've been doing things that are good versus things that are not. And there's a lot of things people do that they didn't even realize were bad. So finding all that stuff out, eliminating all the crap that was going on, and sowing good seeds for the future, that was the whole thing. And it was this, I'll call it purgatory, full on.
Yeah. Wow. What an incredible story. I love talking to people that overcome adversity and beat the odds, and especially the odds of, being inserted with the mind virus, by well-meaning professionals that this is how long you're going to live. When anyone gets a diagnosis like that, I'm always like, well, how do you, who are you, God? You know what I mean? It's like, right. There's people that drink and smoke their whole life, and for whatever reason, they die in their sleep at 101 years old or whatever. And I think so much of this really has to do with that, like the Bruce Lipton biology of belief, right? Just reprogramming your own genetics by your own intention, spiritual beliefs, positivity, all of that. But at the same time, there's kind of a balance there between believing you can get better and that you can live as long as is appropriate according to your humble desires, right? And realistic desires. But that still is going to get the lead out of your system from working in the oil fields, So there's this, always to me, this balance of like how much of the work is spiritual, how much, as you indicated, you were very narrow-minded and skeptical, however you phrase that, like, detoxing your mind from preconceived ideas and erroneous ideas, negativity, and then actually working on the physical vessel. And it seems to be that for most of us, it's a balance of all of those, right? Of really becoming whole and doing the work that's necessary to do to get there. In that journey, one thing I'm really curious about, and we don't have time to go totally off on a detox thread here because I kind of want to get a little more solution oriented. But I'm really curious how you dealt with the lead as someone. I had really high lead for a number of years, and it's caused me all kinds of problems. And I did manage to get it down quite a bit, but I'm curious what you used to deal with lead and the other heavy metals.
Yeah, that's a great question. So the way that it started, I didn't have any clue it was lead to begin with because I had these leaks on the front of my legs, right where the shin touches the skin, because it's right below the skin. And I was getting these sores that would just open up and just ooze out stuff. And it was as if I had banged my leg on a coffee table, but I never did. And I would get 3 or 4 of them on each leg. So when I went to the specialist, they said, "Oh, it looked like a sexual disease." And I'm going, wrong answer, because I'm not into any of that kind of weird stuff. So that was one of the doctors who just blew it. right? They blew it because, and that was the one, that was actually the last doctor I've ever gone to at that level. That was in 2005, right around there. So I went 2 years later. This is 2007 now. I'm in Ohio on one of my journeys, and I met this master herbalist who was into Dr. What was his name? Not Schultz. Dr. Christopher. Dr. Christopher, right? Famous herbologist from the US. And Dr. Christopher just had a whole lot of things that he knew. And this person named Joel, really sweet guy, he was just into this conversation with me because I happened to be at his place. He lived on a farm, and when people start going on and just like drinking from a fire hose from this guy because he knew so much stuff about so many things. And about 2 hours in, I realized, hey, I'm going to ask this guy a question. I said, hey, Joel, I pulled up my leg. I said, could you tell me what you think this is? Because it was still bothering me even then. And he goes, oh, I know exactly what that is. And I said, what is it? He goes, that's lead poison. I said, really? Wow. He goes, yeah. He said, I had the same thing. That's why I know. I worked on the diesel, he worked on the large diesel engine line for General Motors for 20 years. And they were fitting the Babbitt bearings in the bottom all the time. And that's lead. So he's constantly shaping lead. It was always kind of in the air around him, touching him. He said, standing up, the heavy metals go down your body because of gravitation, and your body puts metals like that into your bones to protect you. He said, it just so happens your shins are the closest to the skin. That's why. He said, I know exactly the same thing. I said, well, what do I do? He goes, simple. You're going to take sorghum molasses. You're going to take soy lecithin. Like he sold me buckets of this stuff, and this whole herbal concoction that he said within 6 months those will be gone if you do this. So I did his protocol, and it all went up. Like I've had doctors' data tests. I've had a lot of things since, and validated that all this garbage is out of my system. There are many different things you can do, from chelation but the problem is with a lot of these treatments are kind of harsh. And I think they strip other necessary things at the same time. And that did not happen with my heavy metal detoxes. Wow. And, now we know about oils. There's certain oils you can use. And then there's a plant sterile extract that you can use called Solaris. And the way we found out the hard way on that one is this company thought, oh, it's fantastic for the skin. You put it on your skin, is really good for facial skin. And they added it to their treatment on those ultrasound things, those expensive, like this machine was like 15 grand for the head. And it's made of a special surgical stainless. And they were using it. And within a month, this had eaten the face off of that machine and ruined it. It's like, wow. And that was just, Solaris is made up of clove, rosemary, thyme, and peppermint. And it has like this eugenol in it and these plant esters. Superpower product. And you just take it, you drink it, and that goes throughout in your whole system. It dissolves the metals into an inert state so that they just leave. You don't have to worry about caging them with zeolites and things like that. Anyway, that's a little bit of a sideline.
Well, actually, no, that's good. And we can jump back to that. But I was going to ask you about Solaris, because that's one of the activation products that I have not tried. And I was poking around on the site because I use a lot of the other stuff. I was like, oh, that's weird. That slipped by my awareness somehow. And I just glanced at it and I thought, oh, that's cute. It's some little essential oils, like no big deal. But that's actually pretty meaningful. That's interesting. How did you come across that particular product? And does it have any other applications just for general well-being or any other particular pathology that it might be helpful in assisting the body to heal itself of?
Yeah, well, it's significant in its broad spectrum. The way I found out about it, a gentleman called me he didn't call me, he LinkedIn me. And this is back in 2015. And I'm getting all these LinkedIn messages of people trying to pitch you on stuff. And he had sent 2 messages with his phone number saying, oh, there's this product you got to hear about. And I deleted both of them. And then the third time when it came up, the same guy, I was like, does this guy not get it? And then I was going to delete it. And then I thought, you know what? I'm just going to call him. Just like that. That's how close I was. I just picked it up. I called him. His U.S. number went to him in South America, where he was down there as a missionary. And his name is Mike. So I get on the phone with him. I go, hey, man, you just up this thing on LinkedIn. Oh, yeah, I'm so glad you called. He said, I'm a practitioner. I do things for free. I do phone therapy with people, and I help them with different concoctions and herbs. He said, but there's this one product that is delivered more than anything else that I've ever given to anyone. It's just like this cross the board thing. It's almost like a panacea. And he said, I just thought you would be interested in speaking to the owners of the company because they're looking for an investor. And I'm like, well, I'm not really in a position to invest at that point. We had our own thing going. But anyway, long story short, talked to the owners. They were not looking for an investment anymore, but I bought a bunch off of them. And when I saw what it did, and I didn't want to believe what this guy was telling me. You know, when people get way too wound up about something and they're telling you that it does like everything, and some of the claims they were making was seriously, if it even does half of that, it will be really cool. And I got it, and so we didn't start putting it, because we manufacture it in Canada now. I didn't start doing that until like we got it out. I wanted to start getting it out right away, but we had too many things piled up. We finally got it rolled out about 2018. But what I was doing is in the background, because I had access to the product, I'm giving it out to people. And I can't even say what this was doing because it would make a medical claim, but it was doing things that shocked me very much. And then it was sent over to Kenya. We did a whole clinical trial with it over there. It completely deleted malaria on all age groups, everyone 100%, just by putting drops in the water. So this is not an essential oil. It looks like it would be, but as soon as you put it in water, it disappears. So it's a very specific means of how it's extracted out of the plant. And it takes the entire medicinals out of the entire plant. And it doesn't use solvents, like no hexanes, nothing weird. All natural. It's a super intellectual property thing. I'm not allowed to go into the plant where they do the extract of the concentrate. So
that's like, it's some Jason Bourne health product stuff there. That's the Solaris. That's really interesting because I can't imagine how you could take, an extract from a plant that is inherently going to be lipid based and make it so water soluble that it just disappears into the water. Like if you took essential oils, like I do in my bath all the time, and you put them in the water, they just float on the top. They don't become emulsified by water, in other words.
Yeah, and this is not even an emulsion. This is something, from what he told me, he says they have a means of breaking the molecular size down without damaging the product into like the pico realm. So when it goes in fast. The first time I took it was really dumb because I took the dropper. I'm just used to trying products. So I think, it's a dropper, 1 ounce bottle, and just squirt the whole thing in my mouth. And within 10 seconds, my whole entire back of my mouth is going frozen, like numb, like fast. So I grabbed water to drink it. And when I did, the little flapper that keeps fluids from going into your trachea, it was asleep from this stuff. And it stayed open and water went right in my lungs. So I'm like, whoa. So I coughed it up for about 30 seconds. I got all the water in my lungs immediately. And I could just feel everything just freezing. And anyway, that was my first experience. That helped my voice within 2 days so much. I was talking like this. It was so bad for about 6 hours. But then within 2 days, my voice went crack. And it just, I actually should do it again because my voice is getting a little bit raspy. But it just made like this super smooth, deep bass voice for a long, long time. But so the real overall thing that does when you put it in your system for a person who is, either unhealthy or healthy, is it gets the microbes and the heavy metals out of the way so that your cells can live longer and function at a much higher level. That's the real mechanism.
Wow.
So it goes through your whole system and does that. It takes about 90 days to go through the whole protocol. It's not a product I use every day. I could, but I don't think I need to because I used it enough that I got a lot of stuff out. And so it has to do with telomeres. It has to do with making sure there's no communication interruption because your cells throughout your whole body are in constant communication. And you don't want to have anything in the interstitial fluid outside the cells or the fluid inside the cells that are not properly filled with the matrix of all the elements you need. So this is a remarkable product to get the communication up in your system. And all of our products are kind of around that whole cleanse and nourish and bring energy in. That's one of them. And anyway, I wasn't actually cool. It just sort of came up.
No, that's cool. That was actually, it's funny. That was the very last question I had in my manuscript here because I was like, what's up with that product? I know I know you wouldn't carry it if it wasn't really unique. That's one thing I know about activation after using your stuff over the years is you have a pretty like tightly curated group of products. And most companies I've noticed, they'll start out maybe with a couple flagship products and then they kind of keep adding on. And like a company like Bulletproof, for example, they start out with the coffee. Next thing you know, they have like 500 supplements over the years. And, God bless them. There's some good stuff in there.
Sure.
But how do you decide as a business owner which products you're going to roll out into your collection and why have you limited it to so few? Like what makes a product really knock your socks off where you're willing to, go into production or buying it wholesale and adding it to your line?
Right. So yeah, the protocol around that was, remember I said about being led to the people who were at the top level of each category and kind of like watching synchronicities, watching the intros, looking at the people, seeing what the results are. What I realized is that everyone, me, you, everyone, has a certain amount of time, energy, and resources. And if you could get access to the very top level of whatever it is, I don't care if it's equipment, something you're going to consume, something you're going to wear. If you could get to the top level, you're going to find that it's going to cost you the least amount of time, energy, and money to utilize that, and it's going to last a long time. So being the criteria, I knew that I couldn't discern that because I didn't have the knowledge to discern that. But when we set that as a real, true intention, and we put the bar very high, I was like, I'm open. To whatever's going to come, I'm open. And the first thing that showed up was the Oceans Alive. When that showed up, it was a completely foreign thing. No one knew what marine phytoplankton was. It was this new thing out of Europe. And it turned out that these heirloom strains of phytoplankton had been studied for 40 years. They had determined the 2 strains that worked perfectly for the human nutritional profile. All the other strains were more or less for other industry or biofuels or whatever. But these 2, which were heirloom, had every nutritional molecule known to man in them. So when you take it in as a nanonutrient and a micronutrient into your system, it's the first time that your body is going to experience everything all at the same time. Plus it has all of the sea minerals, all the trace minerals. It's just an entirely, like the whole orchestra playing. So when I first started taking it, all I knew is it made me feel very good. And it felt like it was charging up my battery. That's the only way I could describe it to people. It's like, I don't know, it's just weird. It's not a stimulant. I don't race around when I take it. I just have a feel that I've never felt before. It's this strength thing or some kind of an energy something. And then I realized it was charging my battery up. And so it must have been like a Jing energy type thing. But whatever it was, it worked extremely well. And so I went, okay, the world has to find out about this because I didn't even know I could feel this good legally. And this is when I'm still sick, right? I still hadn't gotten rid of, I felt good, but I still had all these things that were in my body. This is end of 06, beginning of 07. And then I tried to show people in Canada and they're like, that's like, what is that? Like spirulina and chlorella, that's been around, but this isn't exciting. And how much was the bottle? And it was a 1 ounce bottle at the time for $59, which is totally a great price. I thought it was a fantastic price because you got so much out of it. It was better than anything else you could buy at the time in my mind. Because I've been trying things and this one stood out of the crowd. So then I take it to California. After I was totally rejected in Canada, people wouldn't even try it. So I go to California. I was at Expo West in 07. Some people got a hold of it. They tried it. And within 15 minutes or half an hour, they're like, okay, what is this stuff? What's going on with this stuff? This is cool. Because they would try it. Then I was like, oh man, they're loving it. I had an arrangement with the guys in Europe that we had exclusive. Nobody could circumvent us. Well, everyone tried to circumvent me because they're trying to figure out where we're getting it from because they wanted to buy it direct, not through me. But that was not allowed because I said to these guys, I will put energy to this thing if it goes. So we started flying totes, like 20-liter totes of this product, 4 at a time on FedEx into Canada. We were living in Toronto in a beautiful big home. And we were in the basement. We were just renting this place too, because I did not have money back then. And I actually gone bankrupt in 04, which is a really part of this whole thing. But anyway, we got them into the basement. We have 7 children, and a lot of them were still young then. My 2 oldest sons were like 20 and 21. And we set up a clean room downstairs and we started filling bottles. And then we get orders for thousands of bottles. And we weren't doing any marketing at all, no sales at all. Just the people who found out about that had groups who followed them, and they started selling them to their groups. So they were ordering thousands of bottles at a time. We ended up selling $2.8 million worth of retail product in the first 24 months. It's like, that was weird because we didn't have a company. We didn't have a certificate. We didn't have insurance. We didn't have anything. But this product is so pure and clean because it's grown in this 100 million euro bioreactor in Spain. And it's just ultra pure stuff. And so we've never had a complaint on the product unless somebody broke a bottle or something, or people didn't like the taste. But there's an easy way to overcome that, where you can make it taste fantastic. But anyway, this is how it went. I was like, what the heck is going on? It was this totally surreal thing. And I had finished a 5-year contract in 2007 with the company who had bought one of my previous companies. So I was free to go. And this was really, really cool. So that money I knew was not my money. I was not to take that money at all. We put the money back into research. We put it back into finding out more things. And so that was the segue that allowed me to travel anywhere I wanted, anytime I wanted, meet whoever I wanted, as long as I wanted, and buy and try stuff to see what actually delivered. And it was like, okay, there's 2 levels in life. There's top level and everything underneath. So if it's not going to be top level, why would we bring it in? There's other companies who do have top level products. Let them do that. I'm not going to try to compete with them. But in our category, if it shows up and it shows up itself, then I will go that way and we'll just see how it goes. So that's how all the products showed up, was the same. The transdermal magnesium product, super unique, one of a kind in the world, ease. And then our oils. So the only reason that we do seed oils is because I was shown certain technology on how to do it. That was validated not by some scientific document or somebody saying so, but when you get our oils, you become the connoisseur, because taste, texture, smell, color, shelf stability, lab reports, all that stuff is so much above anything else in the market. It was like, okay, I can see that immediately. And then I took them and I noticed a big difference in my body. So then it's like, okay, can I support this thing? So a few years after that, we started supporting that with a gentleman who claimed to be the inventor of the technology. He was living in the States. 2 years after that, we found out that wasn't him who had invented anything. So we had to stop all of our marketing on that at the time and rejig everything and go back. And so since then, we've developed that technology with another new business partner of mine from Poland, who just knew how to bring it up to a level that we already thought we had the very best possible press in the world. And the first round, it went about maybe 20% better. Second round, another 30%. And that means that the technology is, if you look at any equipment, there's 2 factors: the wearing out factor, how much maintenance you're going to have to do, and how much power does it consume. So these presses are so efficient. We get 200 tons at the head. The oil comes out of the seed in 1/10 of a second at the most. I mean, I don't know how you measure. It's such a tiny amount of time because of the way it's constructed. And the press uses 15 times less power than other presses in the world, like cold expeller presses. So wow, okay. So I'm like, that's really cool. So we can actually do the very best product in the world at a much lower cost. And then we had to source seeds. So you can't just go buy seeds anywhere. Everything we have has to be certified organic, but it has to be really certified organic. So you have to get a sample from the batch, you get to test it, make sure it's not a fake document. And then we found out who the really good vendors were. And if you were going to go and buy from a farmer's market, right, some good quality food, you like to know the farmer. What kind of soil does he have? Does he have it mineralized? Has he got good microbes? Is he monocropping, or is he rotating his field properly? Is he harvesting at the right time? When he harvests it, how does he package it? What are his consciousness levels around this whole thing? Because that's the first place you got to go, is to the soil. So then we found out you got to be super careful. How do they dry the seeds? Are they wrecking them? Are they harvesting them too soon? Are they letting them properly ripen on the plant itself? And then we got there's like 15 steps from soil to seal on all of our oils. And if you miss one of those steps, it messes the whole thing up. You just made it for naught. And the most important part is right at that critical moment when the oil is coming out of the seed. Are we damaging the seed cake? Are we damaging the oil? The answer is zero damage on both. They're both coming out perfectly raw, just like it is inside the seed itself. And you can tell immediately. There's nowhere to hide because it just manifests itself. So then we started seeing all the things the oils did in the body, realizing that oils are not just oils, like omega-3, 6, 9, everybody talks about. What we've called them perfect press oils because literally they're perfectly pressed. Each oil is carrying a certain spectrum of nutrients. And the oil is the carrier or the delivery mechanism. If you damage the oil in process, you definitely damage the nutritional quality of that oil. And you also shear the cell of the oil, which opens it up to oxidation, which is lipid peroxide, which is otherwise known as rancidity. And the last thing you want to do is have any rancid oils going in your system. You want to have only perfect oils going in because rancidity binds with proteins, causes plaque in the brain. There's a whole ton of, I'm not going to go into that, but obviously you want to have the highest quality, no pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, no molds, no nothing, and plus then we package them in Myron glass. And I'm pretty sure you know what Myron glass is. So, right. And that's, yeah. It's the most expensive bottles you can buy in the world for packaging. But so what? Instead of 30 cents for the bottle, it's $1.30. To us, it's totally worth it. We have to absorb that cost in the price that we sell it for. But when you have the most premium oil in the world, you put them in the most premium glass. And if anyone wants to look up Myron, Miron glass, they'll see exactly what I'm talking about because that energizes whatever you put in it, which is a mystery even to the company itself. But I've just seen so much evidence of that. That's why we go those extra steps to go all the way up to the very top. That's where the bar got set. And as a result of that, see, it's not me going and finding stuff. It was me attracting it. And it was not like The Secret or anything like that. No. It's just saying, hey, the first name of our company was called The Best Food Ever, right? David Wolf had The Best Day Ever. Remember that, right?
Yeah.
And The Best Weekend Ever and The Best Everything Ever. And so I went, no, we got The Best Food Ever. But we didn't have anything at that time. I just called it that. Then the best food in the whole world shows up, marine phytoplankton. And David actually helped us get a lot of that out initially. He took quite an interest. That was back in 2007.
Yeah.
So kudos to him on that. But that's kind of the concept of how that works. And so we are led. So I don't consider myself a leader. I consider myself a led person by the highest level stuff. And then I can connect people with that information and that raw material so they can make very intelligent decisions about their own health. Because at the end of the day, what do you want and what do I want? We want to have the most efficacious products that we can supplement ourselves with at the very best possible value to get results to live a long, healthy, happy life where we have total satisfaction and no weird surprises with things happening that just are torpedo you. We want to be loved and respected and honored and acknowledged and appreciated and all those things that we can become more of as we become a person that is more valuable to our families, to ourselves, to our friends, to our colleagues. And so it's all value-based proposition. It was never about how much money you could make, because then you take every shortcut in the world. Well, let's see what cheapest stuff we can buy that people are trending and we can sell 1 million of them. That is like so old school. That is your profit-driven rather than purpose-driven. And I don't mean to be idealistic. Everyone has to have profits. Everybody has to have money to use. We all like the use of money, but I much prefer to put the horse of value in front of the cart for real, because that's what I want for me. All right. If I'm out there looking for stuff and I buy other products from other companies, I want the best of the best at the very best possible price. So it's affordable. And I want it to be the least amount of time and energy as well. Yeah. And so if I want that for me, I should want that for you. And if I set the bar there, and it's going to show up, and really the stuff showed up. And what's coming even this year, which I don't really want to talk about here because it's distracting, is again, super cool stuff that people are going to resonate with.
Well, I totally respect and acknowledge and identify with that ethos. As I've created this podcast and the brand that I'm doing, which goes into metaphysics and spirituality and all sorts of different things, but definitely honoring the body is a huge part of that. And as I've curated my web store, which is just a collection of links to all my favorite stuff, basically, because in the beginning, people would ask me, what do you recommend for this? What do you recommend for that? And I'd be emailing people one link at a time to a company like yours. Oh, you got to get on the phytoplankton. Eventually, I realized there's about 100 things that I take in my day-to-day life that people want to know about. So I just made a store where I link out to stuff. But cool. It's something that I actually really take pleasure in, is going for that maximum value and also just weeding out anything that is less than breathtaking. You know what I mean? If there's just something that's like, yeah, it's okay product, then it's fine. And I'm happy that people, use it. And I think the company deserves success and everything. But when you find things that are truly unique, that's what really lights me up. And so, yeah, I definitely appreciate that. And it's a reminder to me to always be kind of trimming the fat, in the store and the brands and things like that, so that when people come there, they can kind of save the time and energy of having to weed through everything themselves and just know, like, all right, this is likely the best product in this category, if not one of the best, and not have to spend their time doing all of the research, which I happen to enjoy doing. But I realize your average consumer, they just want to know like a brand they can trust and just have that work done for them ahead of time, get the product, have it do what it's supposed to do. So I appreciate that. And actually with you guys, it makes navigating your site super easy too. Because I said the only thing I didn't do was the Solaris, which I'm going to try next. But I want to back up to the marine phytoplankton, because this was the first sea-based product I ever used. And my experience with it was very much like yours, where just a dropper full under the tongue, I instantaneously knew something was happening there. Admittedly, as you indicated earlier, the taste was not what really, got my attention. But I'm also someone, I don't care what stuff tastes like. I just want it to do, I use these things as tools, right? So if it does the job, I can handle it. But I'm curious to know a little more about why it works. I know it has superoxide dismutase in it, this master antioxidant. And what the different applications of this particular substance are. One of the things, I just take a dropper every morning when I wake up under the tongue. I go down to the kitchen. That's just part of my little stack. But one thing I've used it for a lot, and I don't know why it's effective, maybe you will, is for air travel. As someone who's adversely affected by getting in planes, and I tend to do it a lot anyway, I always have the Oceans Alive when I travel, and I do it probably a few times on each flight. I'll take a dose of that and it helps me feel better, but I don't really know what the mechanism of action is. It's just an intuitive thing.
Right. Yeah, it's a very wise thing to do. It's a mineral matrix. So if you think about your cellular structure, you have all of these minerals in their right state and the right form inside the cell and inside your body. Those minerals are protecting you like a shield. It's a communication tool. Now, you think about your tears. Your tears, when you cry them, they're like 1/3 diluted ocean water. So the electrolytic fluid within your system is really like ocean water. That's why the ocean's like coming from the ocean, plus it's stored, fresh harvested, no processing at all, stabilized as if it's freshly just being taken out of the photobioreactor in this concentrated sea mineral product. It's like 30%, 70%. So that keeps it fresh harvested. The life energy's in there. So when you put it in your system, your body, which is a chemical factory, is simply going to use all of those elemental things, whether it's essential fatty acids, it's because it's got them all. Essential fatty acids, essential amino acids, pigments, minerals, enzymes, everything that your body can make hormones and vitamins with and repair DNA. So when you're putting it in your system, your body loves it because it's, for one, it's original thing. It's an heirloom. And your scanning, when you put it in your tongue, is actually the most effective. I've done it many times. I don't put it in my tongue anymore. I just put it in my smoothie. But when you put it on your tongue, it actually will get your attention. maybe not in the best way. Some people love it because anyone who loves the ocean flavor will appreciate the taste. I recommend people just to get it in their body, either in a smoothie or in a tiny shot glass, stir it in, shoot it back in water behind it, washes it down. But it is a very concentrated product. And we used to just put one drop in people, like say on the back of their hand, and to say, lick it off. That wakes them up, literally, that one little drop. So on the airplane, because of all the radiation and all of you're just exposed to, you're traveling over the grid lines of the earth at a very rapid rate. And you're also in an environment where you're breathing everybody else's air a lot. It's just, it's a protective thing. And it's also giving you more energy. People who have big projects, or if they're into working long hours on something where they're totally using their brain, they will do it 5 times a day. They'll take 5 doses a day. I've had people come back and say, I did a 6-month project that I thought was going to be 3 years. And this is what pulled me through. So, and that's people who are on the ground actually using it. And it has nothing to do at that point with how it tastes or whatever. They just get it in their body one way or another comfortably. And I think you should really put it in there where your nervous system is happy with you. I always believe that a pleasant taste is good. So you just make it be that. Throw it in tomato juice or coconut water, whatever it is. But it goes in and it has a cleansing effect as well, because it's, a lot of chlorophyll, and there's just, it goes in and it cleanses and nourishes, but it gets stuff, it gets the battery of your cell. Every cell in your body has a battery, and it gets that charged up, which then gives you a joyful mental energy. It gives you a lot more enthusiasm for life. And that joyful enthusiasm in the mental realm and the emotional stability, it grounds you, because it's got all the minerals that you need to be grounded with. Then your physical body responds very well. And it's like you talked about the doctors before, who think they're God. That was the difference between, what's the difference between God and a doctor? Well, God doesn't think he's a doctor. And it's,
That's funny.
The demand for your body requires in this age, because if it was back hundreds of years ago and it was all organic and all heirloom, it's a totally different thing when you're eating food. But the world today has changed so dramatically with monocropping and big agribusiness. We do not get the nutrients out of our food the way we ought to, even from organic. So it's something that we just add in. It fills every gap. It guarantees you that you're going to have every single nutritional molecule, and it's good for every single person. We have not had anybody react badly or have an allergic reaction, because it's just food, but it's the most special kind of food in the world.
Is not marine phytoplankton the most abundant plant on the planet? Isn't it responsible for a really high percentage of the oxygen created? And tell us a little bit about just what it means in terms of the environment, geology, the ocean life, et cetera. It seems to me that this phytoplankton plays a bigger role in ecology than I think most people are aware of. And I find that really interesting as well.
Yeah, it's the most prolific plant in the world by a long shot. And as you mentioned, ocean-wise, it is the functional foundational food of the ocean. So it's the bottom of the food chain. It's the primary food. It's around 2 microns to 9 microns in size, depending on the strain. Many of the strains have many different uses. You can't harvest it out of the ocean. They went all over the world and they took it out of the ocean and put it in labs and then identified the strains. There's 40-some thousand strains. And it took all of those years to figure out this thing. So when you mentioned the oxygen, 90% average of the oxygen produced in the earth today comes from phytoplankton. And it comes off those huge spring blooms. You can look up marine phytoplankton spring bloom and go on, Google and look at the images. You'll see these big vortex swirls of phytoplankton blooms growing for like 100 miles across. And they're massive. They are what feed the plankton. The plankton feed the largest mammal in the world, the great big whale. So it's sustaining life from the bottom to the top of the ocean. If you removed phytoplankton out of the ocean, everything would die. And when you think about the amount of life in the ocean compared to life on land there's hundreds of billions of animals and insects and species or whatever. 7.8 billion humans, we're the smallest number. And in the ocean, there's 8 times more life is what they've measured when they took space measurement because you've got so much depth, because we're only on the earth and we only have air above us and we can't just float around. They are floating from the surface all the way down to as low as 50,000 feet in different areas. So the ocean's so vast. And to think that that's the one most important thing. And the cool thing about phytoplankton, it does not require arable land. You're not utilizing good farmland. When you're growing it, you're growing in a photobioreactor that uses sunlight and the ocean, the purified ocean in this photobioreactor to grow itself. And it gets to a certain concentration level, it gets harvested. That's the concentrate that comes out like, I took a spoon of it once. It's like thick bubble gum. It sticks your teeth together. And there's way too much. I took 3 months supply in one mouthful. And it was, don't do that. That gave me a little bit of an alkaline reaction in my gut, made me feel woozy for a while. At any rate, I had to do it at least once.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that about you. I think we share our, push things to the limit and then reel it back from there rather than incrementally working your way up. That's kind of my method, which I don't recommend to listeners of the show, by the way. I always say, do as I say, not as I do, because I'm the guy that will kind of take too much of something and go, okay, now I know what too much is. Another thing about the phytoplankton that I wanted to ask was this Quinton water. I don't know if you're familiar with.
Oh, great.
Where they harvest this water from, I think, from plankton blooms, right, and have some rights to that water. And again, in a similar way, you've got, all of these trace elements and minerals in the water in a form that your body can actually assimilate and utilize. Are you a fan of the Quinton mineral waters? And would that be something that would be good to take in addition to the actual plankton, or do they cancel each other out, or what's your take?
No, they're super complementary. And the Quinton is the excretion from the phytoplankton. So there's no phytoplankton in there, but it's what the phytoplankton excretes as they use sunlight and minerals. So that's a super valuable thing. They have a patented way to cold filter. It comes from the early 1900s, I think.
Yeah.
Dr. Quinton. And then I think they also call it quintessence. Robert Slovak has brought that across the pond for a long time. Exceptionally good product.
Yeah.
I didn't like the glass tubes when you had to break the end off. I didn't like that at all.
Yeah.
No, because you can get little chunks of glass from that. You got to have a really good filter. That will go in your body. I'm sure I have some in my body. Then they made the little peel off one. Make sure you get the peel off end.
Noted. That's
definitely is.
That's interesting. I've always wondered about the breaking the little tip off the glass, because I use them as eye drops too, and I'm always thinking, and again, don't advise that, but it's really great for your eyes if you can get that the isotonic, not the hypertonic, which is much more salty, but more of that kind of blood plasma compatible. So that's good. I'm glad to hear about that. Can you tell us anything else about SOD, which seems to be something that's difficult to get a lot of in your diet, yet we seem to be able to really benefit from it. And the Oceans Alive is loaded with it, from what I understand. What's the deal with SOD and why do we need it? What does it do?
Well, superoxide dismutase is just like the top of the antioxidant world to get rid of free radicals and to do, get rid of the garbage that's rusting even from the inside out. It happens that Tetrasemis, which is one of the strains in Oceans Alive, has a very large amount of any plant in the world. It's got 1,000 times more SOD in it than normal. And so you don't need to have a whole lot of it. They've done different clinicals on those things. And it's just a tiny amount of that per day to get a big result. So superoxide dismutase is known all around the world to be a very special element. It's like glutathione, only it's more powerful. And actually the Tetrasemis has a type of glutathione in it. So these are the things that energize you, because it gets the stuff out of your way. Just think about your body's having to deal with a lot of noise and a lot of confusion and a lot of mess. And it takes a lot of energy to fix that up. So when you're able to clean it out, and plus when you're using this type of nutrition, there's no inflammatory response when you consume it. Because, when you're putting food into your gut and you're digesting everything that's going through your digestive system, your liver is pulling the blood with all the nutrients off of the digestive tract. It has to filter out anything that's bad. So when you're taking something that has a super low burn rate, and almost like most phytoplankton, there is no burn rate. It's just a clean burning fuel. You want to have as much clean burning fuel going in your system as possible, because that also cleanses and allows your body to put the focus on being stronger and healthier and higher vibe into the future. And that's the function of that, the SOD. And it has to make it through the gut, which this does. They've done a lot of testing, a lot of different superoxide dismutases that are manufactured. They have to put special enteric coating to get it through the gut or it's destroyed. This stuff, because it comes in that food source, just flows right through and delivers the desired result.
That's interesting. Yeah, I bet that has something to do with why my body loves it so much when flying, because there's so much oxidative stress and free radical production when you're under all the EMF and solar radiation and all of that stuff. I bet that's one of the mechanisms of action there, is that high level of SOD and getting you back into homeostasis. That's interesting, because I also, glutathione, as I take it, the brand I like is from Quicksilver, the liposomal, but it requires refrigeration.
Right.
So it's not practical to take on the plane, but I always do a big dose of it before and after I fly. But I think that's why I like this one, is because I can get that SOD kind of the whole time I'm on a flight or even in multiple flights. So that's interesting. I'm going to look into that a little bit more. Next thing I wanted to ask you about was magnesium. As someone who is pretty aware of the different minerals that we could or should be getting from our food, I think it's pretty clear to most people that due to the nature of our soil on the planet, that magnesium, this crucial mineral to so many different systems and mechanisms of action in the body, is sorely lacking. So a lot of people will take magnesium supplements. There's a couple that I really enjoy, I take on a regular basis. But years ago, I started doing these magnesium baths with magnesium flakes, right? And then I don't remember what company it was. Someone came out with this magnesium spray, and where you could put this magnesium spray on your body and transdermally absorb, really high levels of magnesium. And I liked the baths, but I could not really get into the spray because it was super sticky, and it actually was just very uncomfortable and kind of stung, and it just was like not something that was sustainable. And then like your phytoplankton product, I remember at some point you guys came out with this magnesium spray, and I tried it, and it actually absorbs completely and is not sticky and is not uncomfortable in any way. And so I'm wondering kind of what's the basis of what does the body need magnesium for? What's the difference between taking it transdermal versus taking it internally in a supplement form?
Right. So magnesium deficiency was studied like 25 years ago for many years, and they determined that about 85% of people are significantly magnesium deficient because there's just not enough in the food. Supplementation came in really hard. A lot of oral supplements are out there. Some of them are I wouldn't touch them. Others, definitely cool. It just depends on the formulation and how they do it. And the patented versions like magnesium L-threonate, for example, is very good. Now, or magnesium bisglycinate. But when it came to so we're going back 15 years now. And these transdermal magnesium was really not even heard of at that time. And then people found out, I could take magnesium chloride flakes and melt them in water, put them in a spray bottle and sell it. Hey, it's transdermal. And that's really what's gone on. This is not the way it works. First of all, if you just buy magnesium chloride, it doesn't cost anything. It has all kinds of other elements with it. And you want to have pure magnesium that's biocompatible to your system. And as we talked about before, ocean water is really what you are. Like you talked about the isotonic. They used to inject that in the war to be able to, instead of blood plasma. That's how compatible it is. So you want to get the magnesium from the ocean source. You don't want to get it from a mine, like a waste product from mining, and that's what most of it is. So when you
really? That's crazy. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So what we had to do, it took us a year and a half to find a company in Europe. It's not at all available from any company in the United States that had 99.999% purity on strictly magnesium chloride hexahydrate. That means that it's structured. You have 6 water molecules attached to every molecule of magnesium chloride. And that is a structured thing your body can then store properly. You want to have a storage of magnesium, a buildup, a reserve. You also want to be able to put it in your body where it needs it the most quickest. So if you don't treat it properly, it takes us 11 to 12 hours to produce each batch. So we don't just throw some magnesium in water and go, hey, there we go. It's a very specific intellectual property that gets that magnesium to become, that's why it goes into your body so quick. And if people wonder if the concentration is low, just spray it in your mouth and you'll find out it's extremely concentrated. And it's not meant for oral consumption. You could put it in your teeth and swish it around. It helps with your enamel, but then you would probably spit it out. It has a strong taste. But so what you do is every morning and every night, you put 30 sprays into your system through your skin. Now, magnesium affects 330 plus biochemical reactions in your body. It's also known to be the very thing that allows your muscles to relax. Calcium contracts. If you don't have enough magnesium in your system, you get overcalcified. Then the calcium doesn't know where to go, and it kind of free roams. It will go into your muscles, goes into your joints, goes into your arteries, goes into the places you don't want it. So when you put the magnesium levels back up in your system, it goes, hey, free calcium, let's get married. And then the calcium goes away. My first experience with ease, which is what we call ours, is I had, you get the stiff elbow sometimes if you're not moving it properly. And I was spending a lot of computer time.
Yeah,
right hand on the mouse.
I have that going on right now. And it's funny because I have a bottle of Ease upstairs. I've been using it like crazy. And I forgot that I could put it on joints and stuff like that too.
Right.
I just been putting it on my abundant belly fat and rubbing it in there night and morning. But yeah, I forgot you can actually spot treat different places on your body with it.
That's where I learned about it. First of all, when I didn't really understand it to start with. I thought it was a painkiller because as soon as I would spray it on and just wipe it in, you don't rub it in, you just wipe it in. The pain was gone in about a minute and a half or 2 minutes. And it was just an aching pain. It wasn't like some crazy pain, but it was annoying. And it was gone. And it was gone all day. The next morning I would wake up, it was right back exactly the same way it was. And I'm like, that's weird. Spray it again. This took I think it was around 7 weeks or somewhere around there. I didn't have an exact count, but anyway, at 7 weeks, I woke up one morning and the pain didn't come back. So I just kept spraying it and the pain never came back. So I got a hold of the people who had come up with this whole concept and they laughed and they said, oh yeah, you thought it was a painkiller, right? And I go, yeah. And they go, no, that's not what's happening. What's going on is when you put it into your elbow, the calcium becomes excited and releases its pressure off of the nerves that's causing the alarm to go off and say there's something wrong. And it marries up with whatever magnesium is available that day and it takes off. And it took that many weeks until finally you got enough magnesium married to the calcium to get it so it couldn't settle down and cause pain. They say, keep spraying there. Do not stop because you need probably do it again as long because you want to take it to stage 0. And I learned about stage 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. When people get cancer, it's usually like, yeah, you got terminal cancer, you're stage 4. It's like, oh, great. Thank you for telling me such great news. What happened to stage 3? And if we would have cut it to stage 3, we might have been able to do something, but now we got to go radical. Well, what about stage 2? What about stage 2 cancer and stage 1 cancer? Then I realized that there's stages in everything. If you have stage 0 health, you're totally healthy, like perfectly healthy. If you're at stage 1 health, you got things happening in the background you can't feel. Stage 2, things happening more in the background you can't feel. Stage 3, you're starting to get symptoms. Like magnesium deficiency symptoms would be, brain fog, anxiety, sore joints, heart palpitations, poor sleep, and whatever, right? Your autonomic nervous system isn't working properly. Those are your stage 3 symptoms. Stage 4, you're friggin' dead. Okay, you're going to have a heart attack. You're going to have a stroke. You're out of here. So we don't want to be at stage 4, stage 3, stage 2, or stage 1. We want to be in the stage 0 point something and we want to maintain that. It's just so often we see it over. I saw it with myself over and over again, where I would only take action when a symptom showed up. Well, that's dumb. How about if we find out that this is the root cause of this thing that starts when you're 20? It's not going to show up as a symptom till you're 60 or 50. But if you knew at 20 what you could be doing, and you did, you wouldn't have that fire burning in the background at stage 1 and 2, because that's harming you. It's the same principle as right today, like what you and I are doing, Luke, every day, is either moving our end of days towards us or keeping our end of days out there. Now, let's just say theoretically we could live to 120 years. And I may be doing things today that are keeping that out there. I may be doing things that are moving it towards me, but guaranteed I won't feel it either way because I'm just living today. Now, if I'm doing it like I was doing all that whatever in my life, working in the oil field, I had moved my end of days up to 49 years old. Like, what the heck was that? I had done a whole this, and I couldn't feel it until I was meeting it at 46 going, oh, really? Oh, interesting. So then I found out you could actually move it back out again by reversing the crap you did. Stop that moronic behavior. Don't eat fast food. Don't walk around with heavy metals in you. You think you're a tough rig hand and who cares if there's a little lead on my sandwich? And to getting it, okay, let's move it all the way out. So have we successfully moved it out? Well, so I'm 62. Based on the current trajectory, what I've learned, what I've applied to, and what I'm currently doing. And I still think we're just getting started after 15 years. Even though we're really advanced to where we were, there's some big breakthroughs coming. But keeping those days out at 120. Now, some people think they're going to live to 180. That's fine. They can pick any number they want. But they have to be knowing that they're doing things that are holding those days out there, not letting them leak towards you. Because how many people die in their 70s? Well, that's where they meet their end of days. They did so many things in their life that were counterproductive and not making sure that they were keeping that out there. And boom, they're gone. You'll see somebody at 70, and then at 72, they look like, what happened to them? The bottom fell out. They aged like freaking crazy speed, and then they're dead. So we want to age one day at a time, every day. That's it. And if you have 120 years, that works out to whatever, 40, 50, do the math, to 120 times 365. That's how many days. So right now I got around 21,000 days left based on the current trajectory, based on what I know now. So as long as I don't get run over by a truck or believe some mental virus thing,
Yeah. On that magnesium piece, I think it's really interesting how it will sort of attract the calcium in joints and things like that. That's really intriguing. And also thinking about the issues with EMF, because I'm a huge EMF safety advocate. I have an online course about it. It's a long story, but I got really sick by unknowingly living under 2 cell towers. I already knew about EMFs. They were hidden, so I didn't know they were there. And I'm like Mr. Health biohacker, and I got really sick because of them. So it pissed me off enough where I started educating myself and other people. But one of the things that I'm sure you're aware of is the opening of the calcium gate channels of the cell when you're exposed to RF, to radiation, essentially, where your cells get flooded with an abnormal amount of calcium, and that throws off, of course, the calcium magnesium balance. And so knowing that we're all in a really, high EMF environment, unless we're in the middle of nowhere for a minute, I tend to take a lot of magnesium, but that's really interesting to think about the transdermal magnesium too, helping to balance out throughout your system that interaction between the calcium and the magnesium. I think that's an even stronger case for it, just as one added layer of protection, because there's not really a lot we can do to avoid the electrosmog soup that we live in. So that's actually very inspiring for me to step it up a little more and see if I can work with the decalcification too of some of those sticking points in the body. I know I've got the elbow thing you mentioned and issue with one of my hips, and it never seems to get better from getting body work. It just kind of goes back into its shrunken, limited range of motion. Right. So maybe there's something really there with the calcification issue as well of getting the magnesium into local spots rather than just systemically in your bloodstream.
Yeah, you nailed it, because this is the whole energy equation. If your Krebs cycle is not working properly because your lipid membranes are not in the right state, like you said, being compromised by EMFs or RFs, the radio frequencies are actually from this phone. The radio frequencies coming off here to the tower is actual electricity, and it's definitely not biocompatible. I use pulse electromagnetic frequency devices all the time because that purges all that confusion out of you. And I always keep the phones away from me. And, we have Wi-Fi, but I don't like Wi-Fi. I'm like you. I like adverse to that. A flight on an airplane is wow, right? You're getting just totally hammered. Yeah. So all of these things could compensate for the weird age we live in, which is really the golden age. Pretty cool stuff has happened.
Yeah.
But you got to fill those gaps. And That's the energy equation. Your Krebs cycle, your ATP production, that's the energy that your body produces at the mitochondrial level inside the cell. Anything that interrupts that is messing with your energy, and people crash. And it's like right now, what happens with me is my body's so tuned in, and I've done a whole bunch of polyphasic sleeping. Is I don't worry about if my body gets tired. My body gets tired because it's telling me, hey, go for a recharge. So I'll go have a nap for 30 minutes and I will go into another universe in that 30 minutes. And when I come out of there, I'm great for 8 hours. I can just go 8 hours flat out. If I don't get that 30 minutes, I'm dragging my butt because they didn't listen to my body. And that's why people want to be able to control their schedule as best as they can. And even if they have a job, they can just tell their employer, hey, look, you're going to get more production out of me if you let me crash for 30 minutes right now. I need to go have a crash.
Totally.
And these are the things that becoming tuned into your body. And magnesium allows you to have the deepest sleeps imaginable because of the effects. Like it gives you the calm energy during the day, which keeps you like centered and grounded, where you get into your sympathetic stress, you get things done, then you pop right back into parasympathetic. It helps your autonomic nervous system be in equilibrium. So when you put it on before you go to bed, now you're going to have a way more restful sleep. You're going to have better dreams. And dreaming is such a big deal because that's processing all your traumas all the time. People who take sleeping pills or they take, a cannabis or something to put themselves out, they don't have the proper dreams if they take too much. I mean, I don't know how much little cannabis a person would use, but, getting those deep rests where you're just having fantastic lucid dreams. And that happens all the time. It's like, I can almost feel like I could go into a dream if I'm sitting there too tired. Like if I didn't get my nap, for example, and I'm talking to you, I will literally start dreaming when you're talking to me, and your conversation will go into my dream. So I think I got some pretty good magnesium happening.
That's cool. Well, speaking of energy, you talked about a bit about the Krebs cycle and the mitochondria, ATP production, geeky stuff. I think a lot of people that are into the health and biohacking have a fundamental understanding of how the body creates energy. What are some other ways, dietary, supplement-wise, that people can increase their vitality and energy?
Well, what I've learned about, like we talked about lipid membranes. So the oils, depending on what oil it is going to do different functions, but having a regimen on a daily basis of some oil, one or another. Sometimes you do a protocol for like 3 weeks to accomplish an end goal. Other oils you can use all the time. So oils in general, as far as like for energy and cleansing, you're cleansing and nourishing. Just think about oil when it goes in your body, it gets the gunk out. Because if you have a product that has a label on it and you peel it off and it has the glue left, man, you put any of our oils on there and wipe it around in 15 minutes, you can just take it right off. Cleans completely. So it's a type of solvent without being a solvent. So it's going in and cleaning out the gunk, getting your pathways opened up so then the nutrients can get through. So instead of doing these like crazy cleanses like I used to do when I was less experienced, I now cleanse and nourish every day. So I don't ever have to go and do long-term cleanses in these long-term fasts, which are fine. They're good. But when you do it every single day, you're getting a better bang for the buck out of the food you're eating as well, because you're cleaning all the receptor sites. You're getting everything in your system where it's decongested. People call inflammation the pain. It's really congestion. The body gets plugged up. So you do a complete oil change. I recommend a complete oil change. It takes between 3 and 4 months to really get all the lipid membranes converted over. Because if you're going to events or eating at a restaurant or any packaged food, all of that food has damaged oils in it. And your body will put up with those damaged oils because it really has no choice. That's all you're giving it. So it'll go, okay, I have to use these. As soon as you introduce pure, clean, undamaged full spectrum oils, like black cumin seed is one that's by far the trending favorite right now because it's like a whole body tonic. As soon as you introduce it in, now you're gonna begin to upgrade all the oil in the lipid membranes because your body's intelligence knows this is the stuff. This is what I've been waiting for. I'm going to go in and just start purging. I'm going to change it out. I don't need this other crap anymore. I can put the good stuff in. And it does take time. And even if you're still eating out a little bit and you're not eating like the most perfect food, so long as you stay on that cleansing, nourishing with the oils every day, you'll see a vast difference. And oils have got a bad rap, like omega-6. It should have a bad rap because it's adulterated, it's damaged, it's messed up. That's what the problem is. It's not the oil's fault.
Ian, what's an example of an omega-6 oil? Would that be one of these other seed oils like a canola oil? The thing?
No, we can't even bring canola into the conversation. Canola oil is like an industrial lubricant that's super poison.
Yeah,
they claim omega-3 or whatever. No, omega-6 would be an oil like pumpkin oil.
Okay.
Now, pumpkin's got all the omegas, but it's got a lot of omega-6. So if it's pressed wrong, it's no good. Now, think about pumpkin seeds. Now that you bring this up, this is an important factor. This is one of your discerning factors. Because what we want people to become is a very discerning person, where they're not just counting on us to tell them what to do or what to think. We don't want that. We want them to think really clear, really intelligently, based upon becoming knowledgeable about these things. So you take a pumpkin seed. You get the normal pumpkin from wherever, has that yellow case on it. Then you get pumpkins from Austria, is what we use. It has no case on the seed. The pumpkins are literally grown for the purpose of the health benefits of the seed. They're big black seeds. They taste freaking delicious, and they're way more nutritious than the other ones. But every technology in the world right now, in order to get the oil out of that seed, it has to be roasted. There's no choice. If you don't roast it, the oil is so bound to the fiber of that seed that it doesn't release. And they just put it through like cake, comes out and nothing, no oil. With our press technology, it's the only one out there where you put the pumpkin seed in, you don't ever touch it. It is perfectly raw. And we get more oil out of that seed than the other ones get out of roasting it. So as soon as you roast it, as soon as you put it through a damaging process, you now have what we call an adulterated oil. That means that all of the omegas are adulterated. The nutritional values are harmed. Now, even in spite of that fact, the oil that's produced from Austria with the normal technology they've used for the last 100 years, it still has major health benefits. When you amp it up to our technology, it's off the charts. Like amazing for zinc, for hormonal, and your whole reproductive system for male, female, prostate, heart, liver, lungs, brain, it's skin. It's like there's all these. The list is so ridiculously long, but you just got to make sure it's not adulterated. People have got to learn between unadulterated and adulterated.
Well, I think also there's a lot of confusion in the health field for enthusiasts like me about not only, as you're saying, like the process of extracting the oil from seeds, but which seeds actually have the healthiest oils if you could get them out, right? I mean, I remember years ago, I guess they still do it. I just ignore it now. But there's these big, like plastic bottles of flaxseed oil. And there was a trend many years ago when everyone's pounding flaxseed oil and everything. And then, some of us learned, it's actually oxidized and rancid. And that's why you burp and fart so much after you have that flax oil. So then, many people kind of discarded it. But when that happened, I think for me, I just categorically discarded all seed oils as being bad because I thought about the fundamental issue of, okay, so nature creates a plant and its seeds allow that plant to proliferate. So nature has protected the kind of, I guess you could say, the chi or the prana within that seed that is that seed of life. It's protected it so that animals like me don't eat it, right?
Right.
So I thought, well, if God made seeds inedible, then I should just avoid all seeds. They're all bad for you. And so I think, that's kind of where the schism is here with rediscovering oils in the way that you guys present them. And by the way, I love these freaking oils. A while back, I think you guys sent me a bottle of the black cumin, coriander, pumpkin, a couple of those. And I take them just about every day. And I don't know, there's something about it. If I just ignore what I thought I knew, that all seed oils are bad for you because they're all rancid. And even if those oils had health benefits, they've been ruined because you did it. You defied God and you extracted the oil and now it's no good. You can't get access to it. But when I taste these oils, it's like they're very like the flavor profile is extremely potent. They're very medicinal. It's like a teaspoon of that oil, the coriander, black cumin.
Mm-hmm.
You put it in your mouth and it's like, oh, this is different. This is not flax oil, chia seed oil, hemp oil, whatever that I would probably not take on a regular basis. This is something very different. So, whatever you're doing there with your beyond cold press stuff seems to be working. I don't know where I'm going with this question. I guess I'm just excited about this because it's like a food category I thought was off the menu, and now it's kind of coming back. So maybe we could break down like some of the constituents of the cumin, pumpkin, coriander, milk thistle seed, amaranth, some of these things that you guys are working with. Like, what's the difference between these oils? What kind of benefits do they have? Things like that.
Right. Yeah, well, it's really interesting how you brought up the whole thing about the seed oils, because there are gurus out there, and I'm not going to mention any names, but people should know who they are, who condemn them absolutely across the board, no matter what. And in their world, rightfully so, because they're always dealing with adulterated oils. Right. They're not even they're so far gone off it, they're not even interested in looking at the unadulterated factor. So the seed oils themselves are every seed has the blueprint of the plant. There's only a very select number of seeds that are good for this type of application. And it's like you mentioned, flaxseed. Let's just kind of segue back there just for a sec before we talk about the other ones. Flaxseed oil is extremely beneficial, but then it was condemned because it has estrogens. Oh, it's terrible. It's got these estrogens. No, it's got the right estrogens that purge the wrong estrogens. The estrogens you get from plastic are purged by the flax oil. But flax oil is the most volatile, like chia seed, volatile, because they are high omega-3. When you don't press them perfectly, you are definitely going to have an experience with that is not good. Our flax oil is so perfect and is put in mirror on glass, you can avoid having it in the refrigerator, and it still works beautifully. People put it in the refrigerator if they want. They don't have to. I prefer it in the refrigerator because I just like it. It tastes better to me when it's refrigerated. But you can take a significant amount of that and have a huge result. If otherwise, flax oil, you couldn't pay me to take any flax oil from a health food store because, like you said, it's in a plastic bottle or it's been pressed wrong or whatever. Who cares?
And they'll also, pardon the interruption, but every time I go to like Erewhon in LA, I'm sure you're familiar. It's the nightclub we call a health food store. But I'll go by the oil section and then I look at the lighting up above, and they've got these fluorescent blue lights shining right through like maybe a brown bottle, but it's still totally penetrable by that spectrum of light. And just, if I'm not mistaken, a few hours under that light and your oil's already bad, right?
Well, yeah, it's adulterated. I don't know what level is adulterated at. But it's not worth the risk. And people don't want the risk. And it doesn't taste good either. But so going back to proper application and use is the black cumin is a full spectrum tonic. This is working with all your organ functions, all of them. In the Middle East, they say the black cumin, or like they call it black seed, either one, same thing, cures everything except for death. And that's a far too broad statement. I don't think it cures anything. I think your body heals itself if you give it the right tools to work with and the right materials. It's like, renovating your house. You got to have the proper blueprints, the best architect, an excellent supplier of raw materials, very good craftspeople in order to have a good result in the end. So this is the kind of thing that we're talking about, renovating ourselves, keeping ourselves in top shape. So these oils, when they go in, are going to, the first place they go is the liver, because they're going to go through your digestive tract, get picked up in your bloodstream, and go in that first pathway where the liver is going to cleanse out all the stuff that it doesn't want out of your food supply. And it goes in and just starts to support liver health. Get a cleanse. Milk thistle is another one. Milk thistle is a huge one for that, because that's the totally primary thing that the milk thistle oil is for liver cleansing. Goes through the first pathway, then it goes through your system, and it helps the liver through the second pathway, get rid of the chemicals and the various different toxins that are in your system. So and then the nutritional side, that's just a whole nother world, because now you're nutrifying your cells with the nutrients that are actually in there. It's a food, real food. And so then you go into coriander. Coriander is to help your candida balance out. You have amaranth. 8% squalene and amaranth, are great for external and internal use. You take it as an energy oil. So you got your black cumin, your milk thistle, your coriander, your amaranth, and we have the pumpkin, and we have a 5C blend. We do have flax, but it's super unique. We've never pushed flax really hard because it's inside of our 5C blend, but we have rabid users of our flax when they find out what it's like and how it really works. So that's kind of like the spectrum of that, but making sure that you are keeping yourself in a safe space. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. There is science that condemns oils as correct and science that condemns oils as incorrect, because it's trying to apply the same principle to everyone, no matter what they're doing. And this is just simply not the case.
I think that's how I got turned off to the oils, was like guys like Ray Peat and these guys that are anti-seed oils. And as you said, I'm sure there's validity to it with the lipofuscin and, the age spots and all of these things. But then again, there's so many health benefits to some of the oils too. I've always been kind of like, yeah, that makes sense. But I guess perhaps it's really has to do with not the fact that something is a seed oil, but the condition that oil is actually in by the time it gets in your body, right? And so if there are issues with seed oils, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're all bad. It means, you really have to look into the origin of them, and can you derive the health benefits without some of the consequences that could be inherent to rancid seed oils or just a lower quality oil. And also, I think a lot of that too is coming from the absolute truth, as you indicated before, that you've got something like a canola oil that's infiltrated so many health foods. I mean, just yesterday, my fiance got some, prepackaged meals sent here that she can cook, right? And, being the food police of the house, I saw plant-based butter and I was like, I love me some butter. And I was like, let me have an open mind. And I look on there and it was like, it's sunflower oil, I think first, then canola oil. I'm like, this is a company that's touting themselves as an organic health food company, the healthiest food delivered to your door with the huge bricks of canola oil, I'm just like,
wild.
So, okay, seed oils in that context, absolutely agreed. My body doesn't like them. It instantly jacks up my digestion when I eat out in restaurants and have French fries or something like that. I mean, I do it sometimes, but there's going to be a price to pay. But I think that's a really important distinction for people to understand.
Yeah, that's so bad that I at one point I decided that Whole Foods should be called canola foods.
Yeah, me too. That's funny. I thought I made up that joke.
Yeah, I heard it from somebody. You're the one that came up with it. Because I a friend of mine from California said it one time, and I thought, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But if people want to find out about canola, they just have to go on YouTube and look up canola oil, how it's made, and they'll never touch it again, ever.
Yeah.
It's so ridiculous.
It
used to be called rape seed oil. It's still called that in Europe. Can you imagine rape seed? Like, seriously? Yeah,
that's pretty...
raping the land? and it was so toxic. It was so toxic as rapeseed, you could not consume it under any circumstance. So then what they did is they started hybridizing and modifying it to get those toxins down, because they knew that canola oil was the easiest to grow. It could produce massive amounts of oil. And they could produce it for almost nothing and sell it, like you said, like earthbound. Butter? Yeah, right. Unbelievable. And they've taken up so much arable land to grow canola oil for human consumption. There's literally billions of dollars a year of cooking oil sold that's all canola. It's a crime against humanity.
Yeah, it's brutal.
Yeah.
Sometimes I forget because I'm living in this bubble, but I'll wander into kind of a traditional grocery store and wander down the oils aisle, and see these big clear jugs of corn oil and canola oil. And I'm thinking, oh man, this is a crime against humanity that people aren't, aware that they're eating so much poison. And I think that's one of the problems really with eating out too, is, you want to live your life and have fun. And I'm getting better at kind of loosening up and just going with the flow. But the vast majority of restaurants aren't going to spend money and cook with ghee or butter or some healthier oil. They're most of them are going to be using canola oil, even at a really expensive, nice restaurant. So, I think that's why it's important, as we were saying earlier, if you are a discerning, health enthusiasts like us two nuts, I'm going to include you in that. If you're going to take a hit because you go out and have a nice dinner one night, maybe there's some canola oil in there. Well, then there are things you can do to kind of balance the scale back out. And, those things we have agency over inside our own home by making sure we're stocked up with really high quality oils and things like that we've been discussing. There's one other question I had for you. You mentioned cannabis products. What's your take on CBD oils? This is a huge trend. I get emails all the time from new companies making CBD this and CBD that. There's a couple products that I like in that category, but that is a seed oil. Have you guys elected to not work with that particular seed oil? Do you think it has benefits, risks, et cetera?
Well, the hemp seed oil itself doesn't have any CBD, but where they get the CBD from is from the actual plant or from the...
Oh, that's right. So that's from the flowers. Okay, yeah, that's right.
And the THC as well. So I think if you're looking at things medicinally, because I'm not a pot smoker. I quit smoking pot when I was 21. And I wasn't real big in that. And back then they didn't have near the potency they have now. Well, I've learned some things about cannabis, and I think cannabis is the plant that is the most healing, but it has within it properties that are dark. And I can't tell you exactly how this happened, or because I'm kind of under non-disclosure right now, but there is a means of growing a cannabis plant outside in a pot, and you put a certain thing into the hydration of that plant that detoxifies it. It takes that darkness completely out. I've tested it medicinally and found out that to be very true. The cannabis oil itself, when it's done correctly, you couldn't pay me to go to a dispensary and ever touch anything from a dispensary because I don't know where it came from. The herbicides, the suicides, the fungicides, the whatever is in there ain't cool. I don't know. I know there's good CBD products out there, just CBD, when they don't have maybe like 0.01% THC. They're okay. They kind of calm you down. I don't think you should have very much of it. You don't need much. If you're using it to sleep, that's okay. I think you should really get to the root cause of why you're not getting the deepest sleep you should get, first of all. But it was a gold rush. So you have all these companies that jumped on this bandwagon. What? To do what? To make money. That's what it was all about. It wasn't just to help people. It was to really catch a wave. And then it became super saturated. Then you have every shortcut being taken. Where are they growing? Are they growing it outside? How are they processing? What kind of extracts are they doing? I don't know. Is there alcohol involved? Like a lot of these are tinctures with alcohol. They're okay. As long as the alcohol is, certified organic cane sugar and they make their own moonshine. That's good. Cool. No problem at all. And they're doing their extracts. So there's multiple uses, but I think the cannabis plant is the real one. And you got to grow it that particular way. Way better than hemp. Hemp seed oil is cool. We pressed hemp seed oil before. The reason we don't now is just because you can't get the quality of certified organic seeds that we would require. We would literally have to have our own farm to do that. There's just too much out there, and I don't, and it's like a thug industry. Right? It's weird.
Yeah, I know. I've worked with a couple CBD companies. One in particular owned a wellness. I think they were our sponsor for a while, and I love their stuff. But that's because I know the owner. He sends me pictures. Hey, I'm at the farm. He's actually about to roll out biodynamic CBD oil.
Cool.
And so
those are the guys.
Yeah, and their stuff. It's not even. They don't use hexane. They don't use CO2. They do some kind of like an oil emulsion type thing where it sits there forever and it draws out the constituents of the plant, and it's done in a really natural kind of old world way. But yeah, I'm quite discerning about that particular industry too, because you said it is very thug-like and there's a lot of misinformation and sort of shady stuff going on. But I do definitely sense, based on my body's reaction and my intuition, that there's probably a lot more to that plant, especially the cannabis version rather than the industrial hemp version, that we're going to continue to discover. So I'm looking forward to that as we kind of weed through all of the people that are just, pulling a CBD product out of their butt to make some quick cash on it.
Right. I'll get you a little sample of this detoxified cannabis oil. You will be very surprised.
Oh, cool. I want to try it.
Yeah, you just need the tiniest little bit. Cool. It doesn't alter you, unless you take more, of course.
Yeah.
But you eat it. You don't smoke it. It's a consumable, and it's, again, I can't even begin to tell you what it does because we would be making drug claims. It's just astounding.
Wow.
Just from consuming it, what it did for people already. And it's pretty new. It could become a large volume thing. We'll see how it goes. This last year was the first test. And so I got access to it through a friend of mine who did it locally. And he spent like $85,000 just for the raw material to add to the hydration.
Wow.
Yeah,
wow.
but that's no problem. It's just part of the cost of the production. But it's incredible. I think they've really tapped into something significant.
Neat.
We'll see where it goes.
Neat. Cool. Yeah, I look forward to that. So you've got some things up your sleeve that you were not going to disclose at this time in terms of possible new products with activation. Aside from that, as we close out, you mentioned you use PEMF devices. Is there anything you've discovered just in your travels recently that's really blown your mind, even if it's not something you intend to produce and sell yourself?
Oh, yeah. And then I have access to things, and I actually refer people to devices. These are more of your higher end. So, it goes up. Like you get sound therapy, you've got, PEMFs, you've got TENS, you've got all these different things, right?
Yeah.
The top of the top of the top is near infrared. And there's two devices. And then there's a UVB. Okay. So there's three lights I use consistently. One I use every day. The other I use every second day. And the near infrared is a 500 watt fused quartz crystal bulb. These are 20 grand, right? And it has a fused quartz crystal panel with special metals in it. And what it's doing is it's amplifying the electrical energy that your body loves and wants, that resonates perfectly with your electrical system. And it goes in, and there are actual claims on this, where a male will experience a significant uptick in testosterone production naturally. It does things like completely heals joints. Like it'll go in and just completely clarify a shoulder. And it supports the body's ability to do it by giving it the actual energy into the system. It goes about 3.5 inches into the body. You can feel it. The only reason you feel warmth is because the heat of the glass, the crystal rather itself, is really hot. But the near infrared does not make your skin hot. That's the cool thing about it. But it penetrates as a delivery system. And quartz crystals are no joke. It's not a new age thing. It's not an esoteric thing at all. Fused quartz is where you take the silica, they take it like lightning level electricity for like days and months until it goes down into a completely fused quartz material. They can grind that up and put it to whatever they want. It is so full of electrical energy on its own. Anytime you shine a light through it, it plows the most beneficial energy into your system. That's why, what would be laying under a light? You're going to produce testosterone. And I guarantee you, a guy at my age, I know when I'm producing testosterone or not. And it's like, without even exercising, I was producing testosterone.
Wow.
Which normally I'd have to, do kettlebells or something to keep my testosterone levels up, which I think is fantastic. But so that's a major technology. To me, this is the top of the top. Then I have another device.
What's that called? Is that a commercially available thing if someone has the 20 grand to get one?
Oh, for sure. No, I get them immediately. I can actually save them some money on it. I could probably get it down around the 18 mark because I have a special relationship with the guy who manufactures them. But yeah, they just got to get a hold of me and I'll share the thing.
Okay.
It's something that if this guy does not want to get bombarded with a lot of calls because he's a smaller company and he can only do so many at a time, but they're very sophisticated. This is 30 years of R&D and building up to this production level. It is a medical device and it's got, certifications, registrations, claims. There's a lot of stuff. It does like women's hormones. It's got a real literal medical claim around the women's hormones. And it can be sold in the United States and Canada. It's all accepted by FDA and Health Canada, all recognized and known. The other one is a device which is $30,000, but it has 10,432 near infrared and red light LED microchips on these, it's kind of like these soft panels that you wrap around your body and they go on you, covers your entire body right on the skin. So it goes deeply in, and it's like, that's pretty intense. So it gets your body producing the collagen throughout your whole system.
Right.
And the other one is a vitamin D light, and it's comes from a company called Solaris up here in Canada. They have been in business for a long time. All you do is you stand in front of it without anything on for 2 minutes, 2 minutes, 2 minutes, and 2 minutes. These lights are like $1,500. They're not too bad. We added on like a 1/4 inch thick fused quartz crystal panel, which you would pay $6,000 retail for. We can get them down around $3,000. And you put that in front, and that then further amplifies, because the tubes on this light are also quartz. But when you have that thick in front and you take silicium, it completely fixes all bone density problems within like 2 months. And I mean, it will totally fix that problem. A woman could have complete osteoporosis. She can kiss that goodbye. My vitamin D levels run about 115. I don't touch a vitamin D supplement. And I'm at 115. It's like, the doctor's, you got to go down on your vitamin D supplement. It's like, or, the naturopath, are you taking too much? No, I'm not taking any. What are you talking about? You can't be at that. No. This is my body producing it. But it does major things for your bone structure. And the reason I saw that one and it got me so excited and I spent the money on it, because this friend of mine who's 66, this is a couple of years ago now, so he'd be 64 at the time, never worked out in his life, sedentary lifestyle in front of the computer. He's a documentarian guy. He's studies Nikola Tesla. He's doing this thing called the healing fields. The healing fields, like, the magnetic fields, Tesla medicine. Anyway, people didn't know that Nikola Tesla had a whole Tesla medicine division. That was a major part of his life. But that's all coming out in the documentary. Anyway, he stood in front of that light for 8 months every day. Took the silicium from Hubner. You know Hubner?
Uh-uh.
Oh, yeah. If you look in the health food store, Hubner, it's a German company, and it's called silicium. You just take a tablespoon a day to stand in front of the light. Within 8 months, he could take his girlfriend and do squats with her up and down. His legs became athletic without doing any exercise, which is not cool. Right? Like, how did that happen? What's with you? His gut was gone. He looked amazing. He goes, I can't believe it. His 130-pound girlfriend up and down. Well, maybe she's not quite that heavy. But anyway, what was that? So when I saw that live time, I went, okay, cool. All right, I'm definitely going to get the panels. I already had the light. But it wasn't until he got the panels and took the silicium that happened. He'd been in front of the light for about a year at that point. Wow. And I hadn't been using the light properly because it made me itchy. And so I'd have to get the back scratchers and stuff. He goes, hey, you got to take vitamin A. Taking enough vitamin A. Put the vitamin A in, that doesn't happen. And that took about 3 or 4 weeks of vitamin A before that stopped. But these are really cool technologies. These are totally available. And but they're small production volume, and it's for the exclusive. It's either for a high net worth individual who really wants to get super healthy, or any family can afford them if they simply pool their money together and they all use it. Because These things last 20 years, 30 years. It's going to cost literally pennies a day when you break it down per person. And I think, if somebody has an ability to get somebody with a clinic, and they kind of fund it for the clinic, and then they get to use it all the time. And the clinic makes money and pays them for the unit. There's all kinds of innovative ways. If you want it, you can get it. And it's, not just you have to have money to do it. But I purchased these units so that I can do videos. We're going to release some videos in the next month or so. People may not see this until March, but by that time, we'll have all the videos done and all the equipment so that people can get their head around it. It's just a value proposition. It's not about selling equipment or you got to have this. It's about, what do you want to do? How far do you want to go? How much do you want to heal your body? How long do you want to live? How high a quality life would you like? Because you can actually choose it now. And it's real. And the results are there.
That's so cool. I had a feeling you'd pull a couple new ones out of your hat. So, I'm pretty savvy. I stay on top of this stuff. But as I said, going back to the beginning of this conversation, every time I'd run into you, I'm like, what's he up to now? You definitely have a knack for, as you said, kind of magnetizing these innovations, and I'm looking forward to seeing those videos and what you come up with next. And I think that the UVB light is really interesting, especially for people that live far from the equator. I think there's so much pathology that results from just our disconnection from the sun. I'm a huge sun worshiper, and I was out there today as naked as I could get, without offending my neighbors, getting a little peek of sun here in the canyon. And I do red light therapy with my Juve devices just about every day. And I'm really connected to the light thing. But man, that's one of the considerations I really had to think about when I was thinking about moving. As I said, I'm about to move to Austin, and I got to move somewhere with a lot of sun. Or I just I'm not happy. I don't do well. I love sun. But if someone's family or just where they happen to live happens to be in a place where there's not a lot of sun, I think something like that is really, really wise.
Well, even with a lot of sun, you're going to see a big difference, because when you're sun gazing, of course, the sun energy is going like eat the sun through your eyes.
Yeah,
that 20-minute period, right? But this is a whole body is stimulating your entire surface area of your body just to produce D3. Then you got to add in the K2.
Right.
That's a whole other story. Right. So, and then just to kind of give a little bit of a teaser, I learned over the years that we categorize health products very carefully. You have 3 categories. The first category, which is the most important, is called must-have. You've got to have them. If you don't, you can't expect to live a very long, healthy life. It's just that simple. Then you have your like to have, want to have category, which are cool. They're helpful. And then you have your luxury, your high-end stuff. And all of them are wonderful. But if you don't have the must-haves, and you only have the like to have, want to haves, you don't know what they are, and then you have luxury, you're not going to get there where you got to go. And that's like magnesium is the must-have. Ocean's Alive must-have. Black cumin is a must-have. Not every day, but you do it protocols. And then there's things like D3K2 for real. And don't buy any D3K2. You have to know. It took years for me just going, hey, man, I'm chill on the supplements. I don't, let everybody else do that. Then I found out that many supplements, when you do the analysis on them, they don't have anything in them at all because they've depleted down or they weren't processed right. Then you have other ones that are the better ones, but they only have a 3-hour half-life in your system. Meanwhile, you got to have it all the time. Then I found out there's producers who have 72-hour half-life. It's like 72-hour half-life. And then I learned between cis and trans. Cis is like not going to be absorbable properly with your body. Trans is like fully available. So when you have 72-hour half-life and fully available vitamins, right, and D3 and K2 work hand in hand also with magnesium and calcium, because calcium will go into your arterial, the flesh or the wall of your arterial, to go into your joints. It'll go in the wrong places. K2 also helps to put the calcium in the right place. Think about your pineal gland. People talk about calcified pineal glands. Yeah, that's why people are more and more unconscious all the time, because they don't even realize their intuitive antenna up here is getting disconnected. It's like the RF signal, same thing, EMF, disconnecting this, because your intuition, your head, your heart, your gut, your calculator's here with an intuitive thing in your pineal, then you got your heart where your passion is and your gut where your instinct and your intuitiveness is. All of those require proper connection and communication so that you're a holistic being and you're dialed in. You're not going to get sucked in. And the most important immune system of all is not the body's immune system. The body's immune system is very important, but far more important is your mental immune system. Are you able to filter out and take all the bullshit that is coming at you from all the bullshit? And can you filter all of it out? I mean, all of it. Because a little permeation of an incorrect statement that has an agenda or a lie attached to it can be deadly. And if you believe it, you can actually infect others with your belief. The most deceiving people in the world are those who are the most deceived. They really believe their own lies and they believe the things. So mental immunity is super critical. And the only way you can have that is by learning what is reality and being able to discern between the perfect understanding of something and the altered understanding of that same thing, because the altered understanding still has a huge amount of truth, but it's got a lie in there. It's got a lie in here. And those things are messing with you. It's like a little bit of tomine or a little bit of botulism in a beautiful organic meal all the time will eventually kill you. And then your emotional immunity, another critical one, because otherwise you're going to get damaged. You're going to be traumatized. You're going to be messed up. And so we look at this age, what they're doing in the world now, super hardcore trauma, just massive violations against humanity like we've never even dreamed possible. We thought World War II was bad. This is far, far deeper. You know, they're not blowing people's body up in the street, but they're doing messed up stuff, boy. And you know, when the governments or the institutions start pushing it, self-destruct button, right? They push it. And everybody starts to self-destruct. It's like, that's actually working. Keep pushing it. You know, wow, we totally got this mind control thing going on. So the mental immunity has been super compromised with all the programming and all the things that we've had throughout our whole life. It's not about this particular thing or that particular thing. It's about the whole thing. You know, getting real. Let's just get totally real. Let's make sure all of our immune systems are intact. And how do we do it? Cleanse and nourish. Get all the pathways opened up. You know that there's literally billions of pathways that are in the nano realm running through your system. And you don't even think about them, because we think about microcirculation, nervous system, lymphatic, you know, tissue, soft tissue, fast twitch, bones, cartilage. That's what we think about. But on the way to your shoulder, for example, there's billions of pathways, and they can get plugged up by what you're breathing. And what do you breathe? You breathe rubber dust, brake dust, fuels, construction materials, plugging you up so that when you get hit in an injury, in a sports injury, it's death by a trillion cuts because of all the razor blades that are in there. And when you analyze the little brake dust and the rubber dust, looks like little tiny razor blades in the nano world. They're really nano. But they go right into your system because they're not on the road, and there's 10 billion pounds of rubber dust released into the air every year in the United States. So when you think about what are we exposed to, we don't even smell it or see it, but you can see it on the surface of things as it settles down. They found rubber dust at the top of mountains, at the bottom of lakes, 1.5 miles above each highway, coming centrifugally off the tires at 70 miles an hour on these friggin' trucks with 18 tires on it, with that thick of rubber, that wide. Come on, where's the rubber? In us. Thank you very much. So there are ways of using classical Chinese medicine to get it out. And that actually would be a whole nother podcast, because that is a mind blower. And I've literally healed 39, 40-year injuries, completely healed them with my hands, and visibly saw the blackest, darkest, purplest crap come out of my system. And within a week, my whole joint completely healed. It was totally messed up. Like from a rig accident where my left leg was crushed. And just by spending 5 minutes at a time, 8 different ways around my knee, within a week, it was completely healed. Not possible. I mean, completely healed. No, nothing. Just I can go do whatever I want. Whereas I couldn't twist my knee. I couldn't even snow ski or water ski since I was 21 because of that injury. Because if I did, I could walk and run. But if I did anything like that, the thing would blow up like a basketball. I can do anything I want now. And I didn't learn that until I was like late 59, almost 60.
Wow, that's wild. Is that joint energy medicine stuff you're talking about? Is that by chance the thing where you slap it over and over again for a number of minutes and it just turns black and blue?
Well, what it does, what you're doing is you're releasing all of the pathways of all the bound up dead blood cells, dead blood and dead cells. Plus, you're creating a trauma site. So, like for my knee, for example, it was totally jacked up with all of the debris that never cleared after the injury. It took months to, be able to walk and run properly. But then from then on, it's like it was still injured. And once I had gone through and cleared the pathways with that, it's a stimulation. It's called Paida.
I did that.
Yeah,
I did that over at the Transformational Healing Universe here in LA with Dr. Hari. And
I showed him that.
You did? That's so funny. It was by far the single most physically painful thing I've ever experienced in my life.
Correct. But it doesn't have to be.
Really?
So what I learned about it, and I've had some very advanced learning myself just by doing, and I've helped hundreds of people with this. So when I first heard about it, I was told, go as hard as fast as you can. It's like, no, that you don't tell someone like me that, because I'm willing to do whatever. So, I'm like fixing my whole problem in one session when it should have taken 3. Not required. So you ramp it up, and it's a mentality thing. So you want to take over your body completely. Most people are run by their body. Their body tells them to do something, they do it. If they're going to do Paida, the body says, stop now. This is not happening. It's like, okay. So body, memo to body, I'm the boss. You're not the boss. You used to be the boss. And you are very spoiled. So there's a certain amount of injury and pain in my knee, for example. I don't know how much is in there. I don't feel any pain today, unless I blow it up if I twist it at the time. So, but when I slap it, because I can do all these treatments now to the very extreme. I can send you a video where I'm doing a very extreme treatment with a slapper, a special device. You saw that one, right?
Yeah, that's
I got those for Harari.
Yeah.
So you use that. I can do any treatment I want now on almost all of my body, and there's no pain and nothing comes out when I do the treatment.
Wow.
How's that possible? Because when I first did it, it lit on freaking fire, like 4,000 degrees hot. And all this stuff came out. It's like, whoa, dude. And then a week later, it was healed. I had a guy with a torn meniscus, 5-minute treatment. And his knee literally swelled up. It was a 2-year-old meniscus tear, right? Swelled up like a loaf of bread this big. He's freaking out during this 5 minutes. Like, am I being injured? I said, Brian, relax. This is just your body responding to whatever's wrong. It's not bad. And it's going to heal it simultaneously. Hour later, was right back down to his normal size. A week later, it was completely drained. All the color was gone. And he's running around in his torn meniscus knee that was 100% healed. So it's like he was like telling everybody. So that's what happens. It sounds radical. It is not at all. But if you approach it as a radical thing, if you approach it in the incorrect way and you don't have the correct mindset around it and the emotional set around it, then your body's going to dictate to you what it's going to be. And you will have a traumatic experience and you don't need that. So it's all how you find the, because I went through the full gamut, man. I tried it all. I did all the mistakes and then finally got it super right. And now we got it right. So now we can actually teach it.
Oh, that's great. So can you spell this Paida for people that want to research it further from the show notes?
Yes, it's Paida.
Got it.
And there's another part to it called Lajin, Lajin. The guy Hong Chi Chow who discovered it 25 years ago is now in jail for 10 years. Because he was doing workshops and showing people, and then some bad stuff happened that had nothing to do with him per se, because he doesn't do treatments. He was teaching people how to do treatments. And a little boy who was type 1 diabetic and had many, many health issues came to a workshop with his parents and grandmother, and the child, they did a bunch of treatments to him. They made a total mistake on the 8th day. The boy died. Had nothing to do with the Paida at all. It had to do with the fact that he wasn't getting his insulin, because part of the protocol was that you don't do that with kids.
Yeah.
Let adults make adult decisions. He had grown up till he was 21 to make his own decision. But the parents wanted to take responsibility and the grandmother because they really knew that would help him. But they made a mistake. They were 8 days in successfully. And then anyway, when that happened, they got thrown in jail. Wow. And they spent a year complaining bitterly about how this guy convinced them they should do it. So then they finally extradited him over to Australia where it happened and put him in jail. And then made him wait 2 years, and they put him through a kangaroo court, and they just nailed him, let them out of jail, put him in 10 years.
Wow.
So bad deal. So people are like, oh, people have died from this. Not a single person has ever died from this. I've only ever seen it be the most profound and effective and fast, rapid healing that I've ever dreamed of. And once your body's done, it's done. Can you imagine if you had to keep going through the same thing every time? No. It's like cupping. It bruises you every time. No. That's not how this works. This is this is the deepest, most powerful thing, and it costs nothing once you know how to do it. You just do it to yourself.
When I had it done, it's funny because it was so painful as I said, but I was thinking, where did they even do it? And then I remembered it was on the inside of my elbows and the back of my knees. And that was one session. It was rough, but it's just one of those things I just intuitively, I thought, yeah, this feels good. I want to do it, even though it's a little extreme. And then I kind of forgot about it, actually, because I didn't have any particular issues with my knees or my elbows. My issues are elsewhere. And I had planned to kind of migrate the treatments to like my lower back, my right hip, my left shoulder, my problem spots. And I just kind of never, it's no accident I didn't get around to it because it was, as I said, pretty excruciating. Someone that wanted to to learn how to self-administer this treatment, like myself, now that you mention it, where could we go to learn how to do it right and safely?
Well, I'm producing videos currently around all this stuff.
Oh, great.
So, and the real proper technique, this is going to move the needle for you and deliver it. And it's also the proper mindset around it. Yeah. Like you had a very bad experience with that. They did your meridians for your organs first, which is really good.
Yeah.
But it's how it's conceived. And even like Harhari's wife was very extreme with it. And I wanted to calm it down. Like you never make a noise when you're doing it. Everyone's calm. You don't scrunch up your face. That, there's all kinds of things about this that you're letting your body know, hey, this is a deep healing thing. This is a wonderful thing. Because your body's going to be like, this is the most unwonderful thing I've ever had. Yeah. But the end results, once you go through the suffering for the joy that follows, is worth every speck of it. And I could tell, like literally we could do a podcast on it, because I could tell you story after story of very profound things that happen that people can get their head around and appreciate and understand why they would do it.
Cool.
Yeah, because it's not about us selling it. You can't sell it. It's not for sale.
Yeah, it's a little rubber paddle. Like what are you going to do with that?
You better know what to do with it.
It's like a flimsy ping pong paddle. Good luck marketing that. And to clarify, the experience was a positive experience. It's just during it took a lot of grit to breathe through it. And it was one of the most prolonged, uncomfortable experiences where I really had to breathe through however many minutes it was, versus something that you do that's painful or uncomfortable and you just kind of got to grit your teeth for a few seconds and get through it. So I think that's why it left an impression. But it's definitely not something I regret. And I'm looking forward to your videos on that, because I'm glad that came back into my awareness. There's a couple things in my body, as I said, that I feel like I don't feel like I know my body has the blueprint for mobility in those hips and to be pain-free. And I just have yet to crack the code. And perhaps this Paida is the way to do it. So thanks.
Yeah, it'll definitely do it.
So, wow, that's really incredible that you brought that particular modality back up. And I'm definitely going to be looking forward to exploring that. And anything else you want to cover before we wrap it up here?
I think that's pretty much it, other than I was drinking this really cool coffee. Are you familiar with fresh roasted coffee?
No.
I didn't know much about it either because I was off coffee for many years. And then I went on and off, Then I found out that coffee beans, that there's a bunch of science behind it. You roast a coffee bean, you got about 5 days. That's it.
Really?
It's not good for you after that.
Oh, it goes rancid or what?
It just alters. It's not a health product. So I've been fresh roasting my coffee every day now.
Really?
Yeah, I got some original origin certified organic green beans, from like Guatemala or from wherever, like Costa Rica. Yeah. And then you get this little thing from Korea. It's the coolest little thing. You put it on your gas stove or your stove in general, and it takes 10 minutes to roast. So it's sort of like this little fun thing you do.
Wow.
You get a bent hood because it smokes.
Yeah.
And you can do a gold roast or a medium roast or a dark, whatever you want. But and then you just grind them up and make the coffee. And what a difference.
Wow.
You get a totally different buzz, and you don't get jacked up on it. It's very calm, because I'm not into stimulants.
Yeah.
And stimulants are okay, but you got to make sure you got your body's built up with a lot of reserve nutrients, because otherwise you're going to be robbing your brain, your brainstem fluid, right? Your spinal cord fluid, your bone marrow. The body's going to get it from somewhere and produce that energy. But if you have the resources in your body, then it uses it all. That's why I always make sure my tank is topped up. And then if I have a coffee, it doesn't deplete me.
Right.
It's tapping into those energies. But yeah, there's something really cool about it. I do the bulletproof with the ground. We have our own farm. So we have an A2 dairy cow.
No way. Oh, yeah. That's so cool.
Yeah. Now my wife's, in fact, the calf is due any day now she's been dried up for about a month and a half. And the calf is due like any day. I think the 25th is the due date. But anyway, she has like all kinds of stuff going on, over 100 animals, and she runs the show. She's an amazing woman. Like this, I've never met anybody like her.
That's incredible. So do you guys churn your own butter from the A2 cow milk?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so incredible. How cool.
Yeah, it's easy to do. And then I also have this medicine from Tamil Nadu, South India. It's a super unique thing. It's certified organic. It's a fermented palm tree syrup, and it's medicinal. Tastes like heaven on earth, and it has so it supports your pancreas. You would think you were having sugar, and it's not sugar. It's because it's this fermented palm tree syrup from a 90-foot Borassus flabellifer palm tree. That these 2,000 tappers in India, there's 2,000 left, and hopefully they don't all disappear. And some of them are like 70, 80 years old. These are the leanest men in the world. They take these straps and they go up to the top of a 90-foot tree, swaying in the wind. And there's 8 months of the year they got to do it every 12 hours. And they cut the bottom of the flowers off when they go up after to fill the pots. They put the pots, fill up the pot on their hip, slice it down, put the pots underneath, and then go back up 12 hours later. And then they cook it on the ocean, on the jungle floor, because they got to get all the water out. If they don't, it turns into toddy liquor.
Oh, that's funny.
But this stuff is super medicinal. It gives your liver the ability to produce glucuronic acid, which goes after heavy metals and fungus. It also is a major brain food. It gives you your glyconutrition you require, because you do require glyconutrition for your brain to even operate, and your body's energy is requiring it. So this is the purest form. And the more you take, the more it heals you. I've seen people with the most dangerous fungal infections, like on the surface of their body, that's not controllable, and it's eating like that much flesh off their foot and things like that, like their whole foot, and give it to them. They take like a month's supply every day, because there's 50 teaspoons in a month's supply. They take the entire month's supply every day, and in 2 weeks average, they're completely healed. It's just gone. Where medicines weren't even touching it. Like, forget about antibiotics. And it does something remarkable. And if I wouldn't have seen it with my own eyes, and that actually happened in LA in 2017, beginning of 2017, is when I first saw the action of this stuff. I'd heard about it in 2016, but I thought, how could anything that tastes this good be good for you? Right? And I didn't notice much from it at the time.
Yeah.
I was just trying a little bit here and there. And then when that happened, this guy was in so much trouble. I didn't even know if it would work. I was just told it helps with fungus, and it totally cleared him up. So I put that in there. So anyone I make a coffee for with the fresh roasted single origin, the grass-fed A2 butter, and this medicine, guaranteed everyone of that's the best coffee I've ever had by far.
Wow.
Good stuff.
I gotta get on this, man. The self-roasted beans. I bet your house smells incredible too.
Yeah, you got to get the fan on. It does smoke.
It does.
I'll totally send you a link to where you can get this. Yeah. It's only like $35 for the little. It's made in Korea. Comes from Korea, and it's just this little roaster. It works perfect.
That's so cool, man. Wow. God, just when you think you kind of know something, I interview someone like you, and then I'm like tapped into a whole other world. Is that palm syrup stuff commercially available? Does it have a brand name or something I could put in the show notes, or did you just hook up?
Yeah, no, you can get it. It's in. You will find it in Erewhon under the brand that the company where I buy it from. They have their own brand. Mm-hmm. And it's called Sugar Vida. You might have seen Sugar Vida. Yeah, Christina and Max are the owners of the company. They're super cool people. Cool. They live in the UK. Christina is one of these gifts to the world who she was able from a young woman to travel. And she just found all this stuff, and then she filtered it down in India. She just found India to be a massive resource. And the problem with this product is that she has to monitor every speck of it, because over there, the tendency would be to take a shortcut and add in some coconut sugar or add in some brown sugar.
Yeah.
They call it jaggery. Destroys the function of the entire thing. Wow. You can't have anything in there but this pure stuff. And she actually, even though it's wild crafted, she was able to get the area certified organic because they weren't spraying anywhere near there. Oh, you can't take equipment in there and fly up in a drone and all that BS that people think they can do. The only way you can do it where you don't harm the jungle is to do these natural things. They've been doing it for thousands of years.
Wow.
Man, these guys are like lean and in shape and unbelievable.
That's so cool. Wow, man. Thank you for sharing that. God, I love finding out about these niche, obscure treatments and products and stuff, man. It's really fun. Really love diving in with that stuff, as does the audience. I mean, every time I talk to someone like you, I get so much positive feedback, especially when we're doing some things that are a bit more obscure, like what we talk, who would know, like black cumin oil is something you introduce into your life and has a major impact, or an extract from marine phytoplankton, just random stuff like that. I find to be so fascinating. So
people want to have pure, clean energy, and they don't want to jack themselves up. They want to live a long time. The more natural energy you're producing yourself, the longer you live. It's literally an equation, because then your body can do all the stuff it has to do instead of falling apart.
Well, you certainly practice what you preach, because we've been going for a couple hours plus now, and you're not beginning to fade. And I guess I'm not either, but I figure at some point we got to end the podcast. So now is probably a good time to do it. So I've learned a lot from you today, as have the members of our audience. And I want to ask you, Ian, as we close, who have been 3 teachers or teachings that have influenced your life and your work?
Well, we'll keep it on the physical plane right now. The first guy I ran into, which I don't follow his stuff anymore because he does his own thing. He's sort of in a different category, was David Wolf. David Wolf, very generous, a very giving guy, was really enthusiastic about health, about taking responsibility for yourself, eating clean, talking about superfoods. He had a major influence. That was the first 3 years. And then some really weird political stuff happened, which I was like, whatever, let it go. Like some kind of I don't know, whatever it was. It was weird. So in 2010, there was just sort of this disconnect. And then from there, it was going into Europe and meeting like Carlos Magzaga, really understanding the depth of the whole marine phytoplankton science, him and his wife, really heavy influence there with the new, just getting your head around only the top level stuff. Because they just have this thing about them. Man, they are so deeply embedded in what they do. It'd be like James Bond level facility. And, meanwhile, other people are trying to do it in a greenhouse. They're doing it at levels of sophistication and clarity and purity, where they're literally doing DNA selection, and totally cool people. So he was a major influencer, and people don't even really know who he is. He's just embedded in his work, but he's a major force in this earth. And then, your health. I really liked Dave Asprey's look at things, because it's not like I don't take all Dave's products. I've tried different things that he had, but the thing I liked about it is he gave some enthusiasm to it. Like, hey, man, this is to be cool, the cool factor, And I'm not super close friends with Dave. I've met him, many times at masterminds, but he influenced me because I saw him take something to the mainstream that was fun and cool, and did really well with it. And so that stimulated thoughts about, taking responsibility. Anyone who gets people to take responsibility, I like that. Even if there's products I would not take because they're stimulating, but that kind of a thing. The biohacker thing, I don't think you're going to hack your bio, but it's a good term because it makes you think, hey, I want to find out how this works and how I can support it properly. Tim Ferriss was another one. The 4-hour body, just a guy that was willing to go out there and see what happened when he did different things. And he had the bandwidth to do it, and he made a lot of money on his investments. So it freed up his time, and he still drove around in his little Volkswagen Golf. So those guys, they really had an impact. And to think differently is to get you to think different, right? To get me to think different. Yeah. And to think intelligently and not be afraid of things, be explorers, adventurers.
I love that. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, definitely some of my favorites too, and people that have inspired me in different ways. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. Last, but certainly not least, where can people find you? Website, social media, anything you want to send people to website wise?
Well, activationproducts.com is the place to go. And by the time this podcast goes live, we can flash a coupon code that will give them a very special discount.
Great.
For being on your podcast.
Great.
Yeah. And that's how it's kind of easy. Activation Products. It's shop.activationproducts.com is the website. Okay. But we are a very interesting company because in the background of our website, we have funnels that help teach people so they can kind of guide through and understand things a little bit deeper so they can make intelligent decisions on what they're going to do as far as investing time, energy, and money into themselves.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah. One of my favorite things about your site is kind of your before and after pictures. I was reviewing the site today and your shirt off with a pretty sizable gut on you back in the day, I guess when you were in the before your health journey. I was like, wow, this is actually really inspiring and also great marketing because you're like, hey, here's where I was. You look healthier now in your 60s than you did in your 40s. Like, who does that? You're like aging backwards. So something seems to be working.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on the show. It's been a long time coming. During that little break where we did moments ago, I was telling the folks here on the Instagram live stream that you were on my original list when I first launched this podcast over 5 years ago. And I have that list somewhere probably in Evernote. And you were one of the many people I had hoped to interview. So speaking of, the power of manifestation, it took a while, but eventually we got it done. So I'm really grateful to have this chat with you today.
Yeah, same here. And timing is always perfect as well. I really appreciate your work and your patience and endurance and just staying the course. You're a testimony to the whole industry and very natural on the ground, grounded, nothing airy-fairy, just really cool, solid info, and love the people you've interviewed. So many cool. I went through the list. It's like, yep. Oh, wow, yep.
Yeah.
Just all the way down.
It's been a blessing. Yeah, thank you. It's been a blessing I think that's really the biggest gift of doing what I do is just the other fascinating, brilliant humans I get to interact with. And it never, like the gratitude for that never subsides because you have to have like, I think some sort of hook, for lack of a better term, to start a conversation with someone, right? It's like, I can't just email someone's website and be like, hey, I want to just talk to you for 2 hours. But having a podcast is this sort of, calling card that allows me to really share space with people that are so brilliant and so inspiring. And I never get sick of it. I hope I never do. I'm just constantly learning so much and then sharing what I learn and kind of, disseminating that and dissecting it and hopefully making it digestible for people that follow the show. So really great to continue to do that with you. And I'm gonna put a pin in this for a podcast dedicated to this Paida treatment. And I'd love for you to send me, any info you have on that. And by the time this comes out, we'll put everything that we talked about, of course, in the show notes, all these videos that you're going to make and all this, and just continue to educate and inspire people.
No, that's great. Yeah, and just one last little thing. The one guy I did miss that was actually very influential is Ben Greenfield.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Ben's a trip. And super cool. I didn't realize how cool he was until he won the Speakers Award at Mastermind Talks in Toronto, like back in, I think it was 2014. But that was like, wow, Ben, holy cow. Okay, yeah. You got my attention.
Yeah, he's an extremely intelligent guy. And it's funny you mention him. He's been on the show and I've been on his. And, so we've become friends around that. But if there's like one supplement or something I'm curious about learning about, usually what I'll do is Google like Ben Greenfield plus whatever and see if he had a podcast about it or a blog post. And if he did, it's likely to be like everything you could ever need or want to know about that particular topic. And he's really good at just zeroing in on something and learning every single thing you could about it. And he has a unique and uncanny ability to actually retain the scientific data on things, which is not really my thing. I just want to learn it so that I know it's legitimate and then I forget about that part. But he's really good. He's really good at citing studies and just really he's like the biohacker for the skeptic. For someone that's like, I want to see the studies. He's like, okay, in 1985, like he'll tell you. So yeah, he's doing the industry that we're in a great service. I agree. Yeah.
Yep.
All right, Ian. Well, I'm gonna let you go, man, and appreciate your time. And I look forward to talking to you again.
Yeah, thank you, Luke. It's been a pleasure the whole time. Thank you.
All right, man. Talk soon.
Ciao.